Colder Than of Late by Ken Whitmore.
The weather prospects for the North region. A bright, frosty night is forecast.
She'll be here at any minute.
Woman, the weather.
It will be colder than of late, but the severe northeasterly winds should abate towards dawn. And there is a likelihood of snow on the hills.
Norman, Miss Moraine.
Let him finish,
The
Sarah.
further outlook is for a continuing cold spell with falls of snow, heavy in places, likely to affect the entire region.
There, that's her.
This is the North region of the BBC Home Service.
Now, tell her we want no pencil writing.
now-
Get it in ink.
Henry
You
Hall
tell her.
and the BBC Dance Orchestra.
Anybody'd think you were scared of her. All right, I'm coming.
Well, you're in a tearing rush to open up to a starving soul, Sarah Minshall. What's the matter? Is the house afire?
Oh, Miss Moraine, I'm sorry. I came just as soon as ever I could.
Let the old witch freeze to the doorstep. Is that what Norman said? Then you'd get a soft-headed landlord who'd drop the rent to 10 bob a year. Or maybe an out, eh?
Here's the rent book, Miss Moraine.
Well, let me into the hall, then. Can't see in this dark. Never mind my fingers dropping off with frostbite.
Just mind that step. It's right icy.
I can see I threw good brass away decorating these walls for you. Some folk just don't respect other people's property.
Norman decorated it himself, Miss Moraine, if you remember, and it's peeling off the walls because of the damp we've been telling you about
Damp?
ever since.
Bad paper hanging, more like. This row of cottages has stood here hundreds of years. They're in the guidebooks. A charming group fronting the quaint old high street. That's what they call them. These walls are as solid as your Norman's head. Now, none of your nonsense, and let's see the colour of your money. See, it's 2 weeks you owe, isn't it? Just let's get me pen.
No, it's never. We settle up prompt every week, as you well know.
You'd be a right rare one for this day and age if you did that. Did you write this time, as it happens?
In pen, please.
What'd you say?
You're writing it in pencil. Norman says you should write it in ink with a pen. Rent, in a rent book.
He can lump it, then.
Then I must give you no rent.
What's this? Am I suspected of some underhand devious malpractice because I run out of the house without a pen?
Here's a pen, Miss Moraine.
What?
And ink on the hall table here.
I do hate to see a mistrustful woman, Sarah. You're a funny little body. Well, give it here. Now, give me the money. Right. Now, in ink. Received February the 18th, 1947, 5 shillings and 9 pence. There. Satisfied? And there's your blessed pen.
Thank you, Miss Moraine. Good night.
Night, Sarah. Oh, there's just one thing. Norman Minshall. I know you're skulking back of that door. Minshall, I want words with you.
Aye? Were you calling me, Miss Moraine?
They tell me you're doing some work for that Mrs. Peddygord at the Shepherd's Pie restaurant.
I'm building an extension for her, yes.
Well, just remember you're supposed to be maintenance man at my mill, not odd jobber for the village in general. I don't run a mill for the convenience of a man setting up a business for himself on the side. It's the final warning, Minshall. And if I have to dismiss you, I dismiss you from this house, too. And I'll write that down for you in ink. Good night.
Now, watch your footing on that ice, Miss Moraine.
Watch your footing. I hope she breaks a blasted neck.
Come out of the cold, Norman. Let's get this door closed.
Just a minute. What's she driving tonight? Blasted Bentley. Look at that. 75 years old, too mean to employ a rent man, drives around in a damn Bentley collecting her coppers. They wouldn't believe that if you put it in a book. Hellfire! She's going to pull right out in front of that car.
Miss Moraine, look out! I daresn't look. Are they all right?
Come on, inside.
Norman, they might be hurt.
Inside. The force she wants us as a witness in her favour.
Are you all right in there? Madam, are you all right?
It's not a blessed speedway track. Why don't you look where you're going?
Are you all right?
Is my car all right, that's all. Here, out of my way. Let me out. Blessed speed hogs.
I should sit quietly for a minute. You've had a shock.
Are you going to let me out? And you can loose hold of my elbow. I'm no invalid.
This road's a sheet of glass.
Right bash. This is going to cost you a good few weeks' pay, young man.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, look what you've done to this mudguard. You can't replace bibs and bobs like that on a Bentley for ninepence, you know. Not to mention that radiator of yours. Sunbeam Talbot, eh? It's not a speedway track.
We've both got off light if you stop and think. A couple of hours' work for a panel beater, dab of paint, that's all.
It'll go back to the works, and you'll pay for it.
Well, look, I don't want to stand here arguing, but I wasn't to blame, you know.
I suppose you'll be saying I was in a minute.
Look, I'm prepared to forget it.
I'll bet you are.
I've taken a bigger clout than you, and you did cut right out in front of me.
I'll trouble you for your name and address. This is a reckless driving case.
I think you're right.
Name and address.
All right, I'll write it down. Here's some paper. Here, my wallet, yes, and a pen. Bernard Baxter, 19 Leopard Gardens, Hendon, Middlesex. There. And I'm putting up at the inn here tonight.
The mortal man?
That's right. And your name?
Moraine. Martha Moraine. The Lead Hall. 2 miles up the road on the edge of the moor.
Moraine?
Heard of me, have you?
No, it's just the name, Moraine. It means an infectious disease of cattle, doesn't it?
If that's meant as sarcasm,
Look, Miss Moraine, I advise you to go home, get a good night's rest, and get your car into a garage in the morning, and then forget all about it. It's a good offer.
Listen, Mr. Baxter, I'm getting browned off with you.
Will you please let go of my coat?
Are you aware of my standing in Gimmerbeck? I practically own this dale. The chairman of the bench is a very good and close friend of mine.
Let go of my coat.
The village police sergeant and me have an understanding. We've no time for road hogs in this dale. Oh!
I warned you about holding my coat.
You bullying devil. Strike an old woman of 73. I'll have you up for assault and battering.
And could I just point out to you, Miss Moraine, or Mrs. Moraine, whichever the case may be, that under Section 16 of the Offences Against the Person Act of 1861, you just committed an unlawful assault on me by placing your hands on my coat. Good night.
Baxter,
Yes?
you give me £50 and we'll say it never happened.
Good night.
Was the meal satisfactory, Mr. Baxter?
Thank you, it was very good.
Will there be anything else?
Oh, you might put a couple of bottles in my bed. It's like the Arctic up there.
That's been done, sir, and I've lit you a fire.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Are there any other guests?
Just one gentleman, Mr. Grinton. He pays us a call from time to time.
Oh, by the way, I'll be making a start at 7 in the morning, so I want to call at 6.
6?
Breakfast at 1:30, orange juice, red hot porridge, and ham and eggs, I think.
Well, sir, ham and eggs, what with rationing.
Oh, we're in the heart of the English countryside, aren't we? A pig in every parlour, a hen under every bed. Don't tell me you live on Woolton pies and snook up here.
There is the law, Mr. Baxter.
Oh, we come face to face with it at every turn, don't we? Here you are. Would a couple of pounds help to defray any fine you might incur?
Oh, thank you kindly. I'll see what I can do. Now, would you like to step through to the saloon bar? There's a nice warm fire in there.
Lead me to it.
That's the tap room through there. Local mill workers and farmhands get in there. I think you prefer the saloon. Just through here, sir. This way, sir. Oh, evening, Mr. Grinton.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Rector. I didn't see you come in.
I was as unobtrusive as possible, Peter.
Rose, see that Mr. Baxter's well looked after. I'll just go and see how your fire's getting on, sir.
Now then, sir.
Oh, Scotch, please, if you do have the real McCoy.
Excuse me, sir. Will you join us over here and share the merry blaze?
Thank you. Would you join me in a drink?
Oh, well, that's very decent. A rum and peppermint, please.
Good. And your companion?
Oh, a pint of bitter. It's very noble of you.
All right. Now, a Scotch, rum and peppermint, and a pint of bitter, please.
Right, sir.
Here you are, miss. Bring our drinks over, will you?
Yes, certainly, sir.
Oh, look, do take my seat.
Here, I'll move round a bit.
All right. I'll stand in front of the fire until the blood starts flowing. My name's Baxter, by the way.
And my name's Synico, Arthur Synico.
Rector of this parish.
And this is Mr. Grinton.
How do you do?
Mr. Grinton's our local, Oh, I think the term is newshound.
Forewarned is forearmed.
Here you are, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rose.
Eightpence halfpenny change, sir.
Thank you. Well, your good health.
And to you.
Cheerio. And here's hoping you meet with no more little accidents.
Accidents? What? Is that the talk of the village already? It only happened 3/4 of an hour ago.
I'm paid to be a walking antenna, Mr. Baxter. And you know how it is in a village. Kick one and they all limp. Don't I know your face, Mr. Baxter?
I doubt it. This is my first time in these parts.
Well, I travel all over Yorkshire.
Mr. Grinton's the agricultural correspondent of the Yorkshire Evening Standard. He only pays us a call every month or so. A peripatetic post, you might say.
Keep the party clean. I move from town to town, digging out the farming news, village to village. I'll place you in a minute.
I've never been in Yorkshire before.
What brings you up here, if it isn't a rude question?
I think it is rude, Mr. Grinton.
I'd intended staying the night in Rigworth, but I hadn't realised how depressing these big northern mill towns really are. The Blitz didn't make much improvement, did it?
No.
I just thought I'd push on to somewhere more pleasant, and I saw the sign, Gimmerbeck, 20 miles.
Rigworth's my hometown and very close to my heart, Mr. Baxter. But have another drink. Rose, my love, same again.
Right.
I suppose you don't realise you came within inches of making yourself a village hero tonight, Mr. Baxter.
Oh, yes?
Gimmerbeck's dragon slain. The toast of this tiny Dalestown tonight is a 42-year-old... I didn't get your occupation.
I didn't mention it. And you're a bit out on the age as well.
Oh, you must forgive Mr. Grinton. He's trying to loosen your tongue because the villagers steadfastly refuse to unlock theirs.
They're a cagey lot, all right.
They keep their counsel.
But they'd have erected a statue to you, Mr. Baxter, if only you'd killed the old girl.
Miss Moraine? Is she not liked, then?
Rector, will you disabuse this innocent gentleman?
She's a fellow creature, Mr. Grinton. Show a little charity.
She's a greedy, vindictive, spiteful, grasping old...
In other words, not Mr. Grinton's cup of tea. Drinks.
Thank you, Rector.
That's a good, Rose. Shove it on the bill, will you?
Right, Mr. Grinton, I will.
Martha Moraine. Yes. In a way, you know, she's admirable. You have to hand it to her. This Dale's in the palm of her hand. Owns most of it. 30,000 acres or more. The mill, the tannery, half the cottages, and the souls of the tenants. Talk about Russian serfs. Her father bought the mill and gathered most of the land around him. I've ginned up on this family. Broke his neck on a horse in 1904, to universal rejoicing by all accounts. But they cheered too soon. Just 30, Martha was, when she started her reign of terror. You know how she used to recruit labour for the mill? She'd go down to Rigworth or Bradford or Leeds, one of the mill towns, and get a job as a mill hand. And she'd watch very carefully to see who worked well, who pulled his weight, who was a good timekeeper. You follow? Then, when she'd marked down the cream of the workers, she'd sidle up and tempt them to Gimmerbeck. Pure country air, security of employment, a cottage by a beck.
And then?
The rude awakening. Exploitation, Mr. Baxter. The threat of eviction if you put a foot wrong. I'll tell you, one of these mill hands, in about 1910 or 11, wasn't it, Rector?
What? The woman who died. Oh, before our time. About 1910. Getting on for 40 years, anyway.
One of the mill hands she brought up from Rigworth went and died. And Martha Moraine, no messing about, gave his widow notice to quit the cottage the day after the funeral. Winter it was. Night like this, I shouldn't wonder. The widow leaves her child with a neighbour, little boy of 4 or 5, says she has to run an errand, and off she goes. 2 days later, she's found frozen to death on the moor. What was the woman's name, Rector?
Her gravestone's in a corner of the churchyard, but I must confess I haven't looked at it for years.
What became of the boy? Is he still in the village?
No. Back to Rigworth, I suppose. Relatives or what have you. Some said the woman called at the Lead Hall. That's Martha Moraine's house. You pass it on the way to the moor. They say she called on Martha to beg for one more chance, but got turned down flat and just wandered onto the moor to die.
It sounds a bit far-fetched.
Listen, Mr. Baxter, I could tell you more tales about Martha Moraine
Oh,
than...
really?
Well, what about the brass band?
Brass band?
She confiscated their instruments. This is only about 18 months ago.
The Gimmerbeck British Wool Brass Band. Quite famous in these parts, Mr. Baxter. Most of the instrumentalists work at Miss Moraine's mill.
They went down to a contest in Manchester and won first prize. Then they started celebrating. Well, next morning, I don't think one of them turned in on time at the mill. Next band practice, they go along to the old loom room where they keep their instruments and do the rehearsing, and their instruments have gone. What's this? Oh, says Martha, I've suspended the band for a month. Next time it'll be the sack. Then there's George Sarum.
Yes?
A bit of an artist with a paintbrush. Only got one arm. Just about scrapes a living doing local landscapes, as far as I can see. He's one of Miss Moraine's tenants, little cottage down by the river. And she's taken him to court for non-payment of rent.
No.
But the thing is, you see, Sarum's wife says she paid the rent, only Miss Moraine entered it up in the rent book in pencil. Who would you believe, Mr. Baxter?
Oh, bless me, 8 already. I'm afraid you really must excuse me.
Oh, Rector, I'd like a look at your church.
Church?
It's a hobby of mine.
Architecture?
I go in for the Norman period.
Yes, well, we're Norman, all right. At least originally. We've still got a pure Norman doorway, the heads filled in solid with beautiful sculpture to the top of the arch. Oh, look here. Come to the rectory for a sherry tomorrow.
I'm leaving at 7 in the morning. I've got to be in York by 10. Would you mind if I stroll along with you now?
You don't understand. The church is on the fell, you see.
The fell?
And jolly inconvenient, too. A stiff climb of getting on for a mile. Fortunately, the rector is down here in the village. Sometimes the snow stops us using the church for weeks on end. The parishioners have never acquired my knack of climbing mountains.
Mr. Synico's a man of many talents. He's the leader of the Gimmerbeck Mountain Rescue Team, for one thing. Don't let that dog collar deceive you.
You see, Mr. Baxter, the shepherd of Christ's flock in this parish must be a man of resourceful parts as well as strong and simple faith. Now I must bid you good night. It was awfully nice meeting you, Mr. Baxter. I wish you a safe journey in the morning. Goodbye, Grinton.
I'll be seeing you.
Good night.
Skinflint.
What did you say?
Walking out without buying his round. Strange, that. He used to be very free with his brass once upon a time. I believe his father left a very long stocking.
Huh?
Plenty of cash. Some good paintings, too, I believe. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the rectors gambled it all away.
He wouldn't be the first sporting parson.
And women.
What?
Right now, it wouldn't surprise me if he's off to see Mrs. Perigord.
Oh?
Keeps the restaurant just up the road from here. The Shepherd's Pie. A very nice piece, Charlotte Perigord.
Well, isn't he married?
Oh, yes. Pretty happily, on the surface.
Well, I think I'll take a stroll and stretch my legs. I've been driving all day.
Where from?
You know, I'd kick myself if I leave here without taking a look at that Norman doorway.
What's going on in York?
How do I get to it?
York?
The church.
Are you serious? Go 500 yards up that fell and you'll die of exposure. The Corpse Road will be thick with ice.
Corpse Road?
The lane up to the church. Nasty spot to break a leg. Of course, if you want to supply me with a crisp little story for tomorrow's first edition, Stranger Freezes on Fell...
All right. You've talked me out of it. I'll go and take a look at the village.
Fresh air fiend, aren't you?
I like to study the makeup of these little out-of-the-way places.
In the dark?
There's a full moon. Is there anything worth looking at?
On a miserable Monday night in Gimmerbeck. It's just a typical Dale's village, that's all. 100 or 2 little stone cottages, a few Georgian places. This is the only village in the Dale, by the way. Has the Dale all to itself. Of course, you'll see a few little lights winking up in the hills, the farmhouses. The village is full of trippers in the season, hence the home-knitted woolens and knick-knack shops. The place couldn't survive without tourism, really.
Yes, I see. Well, there's nothing of architectural interest, except the church.
Well, there are the remains of the lead mines up on the moor. 17th century, I think. But you won't be going up there tonight. Oh, and there's a little stone hermitage, like a tiny chapel. Supposedly haunted, of course. Very remote, between here and the Lead Hall.
Miss Morane's place. I still haven't got my bearings.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. We're in the village main street, right? The Mortal Man. Go out of here, turn left, and you pass the Shepherd's Pie, the last building in the village. Then you're climbing the hill up to the moor. On the other hand, you can turn right, down the hill, through the village, over the bridge, and you're on your way out on the Rigworth Road. The Corpse Road to the church branches off just before the bridge.
Yes, I think I've got the lie of the land. Well, we may meet later.
Wrap up warm, Mr. Baxter. Rather you than me.
Your health, Mr. Grinton.
Cheerio, Doctor. Now drink it right down.
That's good. You can't beat a brandy. I suppose you've been hugging that fire all night.
Who wouldn't? It's a night to make a black dog walk in white.
Some of us have to go out in it.
You've been working?
I just closed the surgery and I was looking forward to a lazy night. And I got called out to Aysgarth.
Over the moor?
All in a day's work. And just think of the poor sheep farmers. Lambing time and weather like this. It was snowing like blazes when I left Aysgarth. Flakes as big as half-crowns. Should reach us in an hour or two.
Well, let me get you another brandy.
Oh, Mr. Grinton, you'll have me plastered.
Rose, another brandy for Dr. Dunsany. I can't have you going down with a cold. Well, it's Mrs. Perigord. You timed that nicely.
Oh, good evening. Hello, Hilary.
Hello, Charlotte.
Rose, a drink for Mrs. Perigord.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Grinton, but I'm with the rector.
Good evening, good evening. Have you been monopolising that fire all evening, Grinton? Hello, Doctor.
Yes, I'm still chair. And one for Mr. Synico, Rose. I think it's a rum, isn't it?
And peppermint. Scotch for you, Mrs. Perigord?
Yes, lovely.
Come and sit by the fire, Charlotte.
Just popped in for a nightcap.
Oh, we've had rather a heavy evening of it, ploughing through the parish accounts at the Shepherd's Pie. Mrs. Perigord's our treasurer, you know.
Yes. Well, I'll just move these chairs around so you can all get a peep at the fire.
Right, and I'll put this one over there.
Fine. You sit there, Mrs. Perigord.
Oh, thank you.
Don't mind me. I'm toasted all through.
Well, this is all very snug.
Charlotte, I don't want to spoil party fun, but speaking as your doctor, I think you're very unwise to come out on a night like
Oh,
this.
please don't bully me, Hilary. I'm liable to burst into tears. Anyway, I think I've earned a drink. I don't keep a single bottle in the house now.
You're doing very well, but you mustn't take any risks.
Thanks, Rose. I'll take the tray.
I'm rather cross with you, Rector.
My dear Dr. Dunsany, you make me feel very guilty.
Just as long as you remember Charlotte's still in a very delicate state of health.
Oh, good God, Hilary, can't we give it a rest for once?
Dr. Dunsany, can you spare a minute? This gentleman's been hurt.
Oh dear, what's happened to him?
All right, Randall, I can stand on my own 2 feet.
Stay in the box, Mr. Baxter. Just keep a hold on me till we get you to a chair.
What happened? Did you slip on the ice?
I just ricked my damned ankle, that's all.
My dear Mr. Baxter, here, take my chair.
Now let's sit down. Gently does it.
My God, Baxter, I do believe you've been trying to climb up to that church. Came a cropper, did you?
Look, I'm sorry to cause all this commotion. My ankle seems to have packed in.
All right, let me take a look.
Get your blasted hands off me.
I'll just unlace your shoe.
Hands off, I said.
Don't be a fool, Baxter. The lady's a doctor.
Well, are there no men doctors in this benighted place?
Sorry, you'll just have to put up with me, Mr. whoever you are.
Baxter. Sorry. I just prefer being treated by a man.
Golly, is it 10 already? Now off with that shoe, Mr. Baxter. There. Peter, could you get me a roll of bandage and a jug of cold water?
Right you are.
Now, I'm just going to press here, Mr. Baxter.
Thank you very much.
Yes. It's rather ugly and puffed up, but, grit your teeth, Mr. Baxter. I'm going to give it a little twist.
Is it broken?
All you're suffering from, Mr. Baxter, is a badly sprained ankle and a slight case of misogyny.
Were you trying to get up to the church?
The church?
Mr. Baxter's a student of Norman doorways.
All right, I'm an idiot. It looked perfectly straightforward to me. I'd only gone 100 yards and bam, down I went.
Lucky it didn't happen at the top. Stranger freezes on fell.
bandages, Doctor.
Oh.
Where do you want this job? Is he all right?
Oh, just down there, Peter. He'll have to scratch from the sprint for a few days, but no lasting damage. I'm going to strap you up, Mr. Baxter. Now, be warned, this water's icy.
Oh, dear, this is marvellous. I'm supposed to be in York at 10 in the morning.
Well, you won't be driving anywhere on that ankle.
Is there anybody in the village who could run me there? He'd be well paid.
Robin Lambert, apprentice at the garage. He might do it.
Could you get in touch with him then?
I'll slip along and see him now.
I think you'd better help Mr. Baxter up to his room first, Peter. Bed's what he needs at the moment. You might get him a stiff brandy first.
Right.
York, of course. I know who you are now, Mr. Baxter.
Really?
I knew I'd seen your face before. Inspector Morgan. He goes on trial at York tomorrow, doesn't he? Charged with murdering his wife.
You're very well informed for an agricultural correspondent, Grinton.
Yes, Inspector Morgan. He used to work for you at Scotland Yard, didn't he? You're Baxter, Detective Superintendent Bernard Baxter.
Oh, Charlotte, are you all right? Oh, I'm sorry, but my glass slipped, that's all.
Charlotte, your hands. You really are in no condition.
Just don't bully me, Hilary.
I must explain, Mr. Baxter, that Mrs. Perigord has been under a very severe strain these last few months.
Superintendent Baxter? Now, just a moment, weren't you...
Yes, Rector. The Rosalind Withers case. Yes. Mr. Baxter's picture was all over the papers a couple of Sundays ago. I knew I'd seen him somewhere.
Here's a drink, Mr. Baxter. I'll get that down.
Thank you.
The trial of Inspector Morgan. I suppose you'll be speaking in his defence. A new sensation for you, Mr. Baxter. Giving character evidence, fine upstanding officer and all that.
What a perceptive crime reporter Fleet Street lost in you, Mr. Grinton. And now, landlord, if you help me up to bed.
Right. Now, gently does it, Mr. Baxter. Right.
Thank you.
And repeat the cold compress in the morning.
Now, you take it steady. I'll find you a stick first thing tomorrow.
And thanks for your kind ministrations, Doctor.
Glad to help.
Watch your step, Superintendent.
I beg your pardon?
The stairs. You seem accident-prone. Well, a celebrity in our midst.
Did you say Rosalind Withers? Was he really mixed up in that affair?
Yes. Mr. Baxter caught the lady. And next week they stretch that lovely slender neck.
Oh, don't be disgusting.
A terrible waist, somehow. I wonder how Baxter feels about it. Hanged on 2 inches of turquoise cotton.
Cotton?
Haven't you followed the case, Doctor?
There's enough pain on my own doorstep, Mr. Grinton.
John Withers, a London schoolmaster, has a beautiful wife, right? 2 children, everything ticking along nicely. Then one day she's off with a young American army lieutenant. Happening all the time. Rosalind Withers wants a divorce. The husband says no. He's a Roman. He wants her back. Anyway, Rosalind goes off to live with her Yank and doesn't see the husband for, 6 months or more. Then Withers is found stabbed to death at home, and it's no time before the police pick the Yank up, and he admits everything. Says Rosalind had nothing to do with it. Wasn't anywhere near the place. The experts go through the house with tooth combs and vacuum cleaners, and Rosalind's in the clear. Nothing to suggest that she'd been there for 6 months.
But Mr. Baxter wasn't satisfied, oh no. He was intent on destroying Rosalind Withers.
Oh, come, Charlotte.
He questioned her for weeks on end. He put her on the rack. And then finally he went back to examine the house again, and he found 2 inches of turquoise cotton. Is that right, Mr. Grinton?
Yes. Tucked down between the cushions of a sofa.
A little cotton thread that came off a skirt Mrs. Withers bought 2 days before the murder.
She said she hadn't been near the place for 6 months. The cotton said otherwise.
And it was enough to convict her as an accessory. He set out deliberately to destroy that woman.
Charlotte, you're getting terribly overwrought.
Are you suggesting that Mr.
That he set
Baxter...
out to destroy her, yes. And in the absence of evidence, decided to provide some himself.
Baxter's been highly successful with women.
Women?
Women criminals. Said to have a peculiarly sensitive understanding of the female criminal mind.
He's a monster, don't you see that man? Oh, my God.
Charlotte, are you all right?
Fresh air. Oh, I must get out of
Come
here.
on, Charlotte, we're taking you home.
Oh, I can't breathe.
Oh.
My dear Charlotte, try to calm yourself.
We'll soon have you tucked up in a nice warm bed. Now, give me a hand, will you, Redfern?
Yes.
Look, can I help?
Mr. Sineco and I will manage. Now, come along,
No,
Charlotte.
there you are, my dear.
Why should he come here now?
That man knows something.
Now, quiet, Charlotte. We'll soon have you home.
Rose,
Yes, Mr. Grinton?
after that sobering experience, the same again. Hello, it's the artist and his implements.
Ah, evening, Grinton.
Well, Sarum, I suppose you'd like a drink.
You have one on me.
What? Oh, Rose is just getting me one, thanks.
And a pint of bitter for me, Rose. What was all that about? Mrs. Perigord, they were carrying her out.
She had what they call a funny turn.
She's been through the mill, that woman. Can't understand why she stays in this pestilential village.
Take a pew.
I'll just get rid of this gear.
Do you have to drag all that stuff around with you? Easel, paints? Here, let me give you a hand.
I'm not totally helpless.
Here we are. 2 pints of bitter.
Thank you, Rosie. Keep the change.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Sarum.
What's happened? Have you sold a painting?
Let's just say I had a stroke of luck.
Are you going to win that court case against Miss Moraine?
I'm not going to lose it. Cheers.
Here's to art. You been up on the moor tonight?
The moor? Who told you I'd been on the moor?
I'm a perambulating antenna. They tell me you're painting the village by moonlight. Been up there 1 or 2 nights now, haven't you? How the hell do you keep from freezing to death?
Brazier. And I keep in the lee of the wall.
This the masterpiece? Could I just have a peep under the cover?
Get your hands off, Grinton.
All right, no need to snap my head off.
It isn't finished.
I'd like to write a piece about you, Sarum, for the paper. You're a colourful village character, you know.
No, thanks.
It could sell a few canvases.
I can survive without that kind of publicity. Penniless, one-armed artist paints village by moonlight rubbish. Can't I find anything better to write about?
In Gimmerbeck? Don't make me laugh, Sarum. Nothing ever happens in Gimmerbeck.
Hello. Hello. Oh, thank God, I thought the line was down. Is that copy? Oh, good morning, Ethel. Stan Grinton, yes. Oh, just 7 or 8 paragraphs, yes. You ready? Right. From Stanley Grinton in Gimmerbeck. Thick snow was today hampering the search for a wealthy woman landowner aged 73 who vanished last night in the small Yorkshire Dales village, no, make that township, the small Yorkshire Dales township of Gimmerbeck, population 410, New Par. As a fierce blizzard swept down from the northeast, painting the landscape white and obliterating almost every landmark, the hunt for Miss Martha Moraine, M for Mary, U-R-R-A-I-N for Nellie, was led by the local mountain rescue team under the command of the rector of Gimmerbeck, the Reverend Arthur Sinico, S-I-N for Nellie, I-C-O. New Par. Miss Moraine has not been seen since leaving her home, the Lead Hall, as in lead pencil, on the fringe of Gimmerbeck Moor shortly after 9 o'clock last night. Her housekeeper, Miss Alice Pegg, also 73, says her mistress left home on foot shortly after receiving a telephone call. Police are trying to trace the caller. New Par. Snow started falling at midnight and has now cut the township off from the outside world, with every roadway impassable and drifts of 20 feet reported in exposed places. New Par. Among those stranded in Gimmerbeck is Detective Superintendent Bernard Baxter of Scotland Yard, who was to have travelled on to York today to give evidence for the defence in the trial of a former colleague, Inspector Morgan.
Well, Mr. Baxter, Peter's made you very comfortable. A snug little bedroom to rest up in, a wood fire, a good book. Is it a good one?
Captain Scott's diaries.
What better for the snowbound traveller?
They tell me Miss Moraine's taken it into her head to emulate Captain Oates
Captain Oates?
when the rations grew short and he was holding up the party.
Oh, yes. He walked out into the snow, didn't he?
I'm just going outside, he said. I may be gone for some time.
And he never came back.
A gallant gentleman, as they say. Where the devil has she gone?
Time will tell, Mr. Baxter. Now, you just rest up for a few days.
I haven't any choice.
No.
It's very kind of you to look in. How'd you get about in this fearful snow?
By horse. Much more reliable than a car.
And how long have you practiced in these parts?
Just over a year. I took over my father's practice when he died. When he killed himself, actually.
Lord, I'm sorry. An accident, you mean?
Actually, no. My father had been overworking pretty drastically all through the war, and at the same time he was trying to build up a pony trekking school. He had this notion that once peace came he'd be able to give up medicine and make a fortune out of horses. The Dunsany passion for horseflesh. He built some very beautiful stables and a guest wing, but he overextended himself, physically as well as financially. I don't know why I'm bothering you with all this.
No, go on.
Well, towards the end of the war, he was in the thick of the big typhoid epidemic in Rigworth. He was running his own practice up here during the day and driving down to Rigworth every night to lend a hand in the isolation hospital. He got hardly any sleep, and he wasn't in his first youth, you know. My mother died in the middle of all that, and it just poleaxed him. And then, about 18 months ago, 3 children here in the village died of influenza, and it seemed to prey on his mind. He took an overdose a few weeks later.
My God, that is rough. And you were away when all this was going on?
I was serving as a doctor in the Wrens.
Overseas?
I was in Egypt when he died. They let me out to take over his practice.
And the pony trekking school?
Oh, that's gone. When they came to wind up the estate, it turned out Father had sold it to Miss Moraine for hardly anything at all.
Could you pass the salt, Mr. Grinton?
There you are.
Thanks. I can't stand porridge without salt.
I never thought a time would come I'd be having breakfast 2 days running with Baxter of the Yard.
Have you telephoned your thrilling daily instalment?
Well, I've got to catch up with overnight developments first. They'll never find her, you know.
Really?
Just a feeling I've got. Newsman's nose. She'd gone down a mine shaft.
Mine shaft?
The lead mines. The most riddled with open shafts.
Oh, excuse me. Am I addressing Superintendent Baxter?
Why, yes, Sergeant. Come in. Close the door, will you?
Sir, we've found her. Miss Moraine.
Sorry, Sergeant, I didn't get your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Titus. John Titus.
Yes, Sergeant Titus.
I've just been on the telephone to the Chief Constable in Rigworth, and I mentioned that you were in the village. He's very anxious for you to take the case over, sir.
The case?
Well, as I'm the only policeman in the place, sir. The roads won't let the detectives in from headquarters.
Tell me what's happened.
About 3/4 of an hour ago, sir, some lads and lasses were skylarking up on the Moor Road, sledging and snowballing before they went to school. One of them spotted this snowman in a field, on the right-hand side as you go up, between the little hermitage place and the lead hall.
A snowman?
Sort of leaning against this tree trunk, an old silver birch set well back in the field. So they started snowballing it, this snowman, the lads and lasses did, and a right queer thing happened. Its head came off, only there was another head underneath. The lads and lasses had a bit of a start, because it was a human head. Miss Moraine.
Leaning? Leaning against a tree?
Tied to it. Tied with green baler twine. Those poor wenches were in a terrible way. What with the empty eye sockets, all bloody and gaping. It's not pretty.
What do you mean, empty eye sockets?
Missing, sir. Gone. Pecked out, most likely. Crows. Just like when a sheep's trapped in the snow with its head sticking out. The crows come along and take their eyes.
Mr. Grinton tells me Miss Moraine received a phone call on Monday night.
Yes, sir.
And then went out.
I've been trying to trace the caller, sir.
You've checked with the telephone operator?
Miss Lineburner, she runs the switchboard in the village, says she can't remember anybody making a call.
Can't remember?
Says she makes a point of not interfering in other people's business. Her job's just to put calls through and then wipe her mind clean like a blackboard. So she says.
Have you worked on a murder inquiry before, Titus?
No, sir.
Just enforcing the agricultural bylaws and putting the wind up the poachers, eh?
Oh, well.
How long have you been in the local bobby?
I came back in 1945, sir, in November.
Back?
I spent 2 years in the Indian police, sir, on detachment.
But you're a local man?
Yes, sir.
Married?
Yes, sir.
Children?
Well,
The sergeant had a boy who died just after the family got back from India. Isn't that right?
yes.
The outbreak of influenza?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm very sorry, Titus, but I'd like to know a little about the people I'm working with. Who were the other children, by the way, who died?
The rector's daughter, sir, and Mrs. Perigord at the Shepherd's Pie. She lost her son.
Well, I sympathise with you, Sergeant. Now then, we're just a little under strength, aren't we? Do you write shorthand?
No, sir.
Use a typewriter?
Just 2 fingers.
That's a nuisance. And I can't work from an armchair, despite this idiotic ankle. I'll need a driver.
There's nothing to stop me driving about, sir.
We won't be able to afford the luxury of going about together, Titus. There are jobs for you and jobs for me. Can you rely on a vehicle to get me through this snow?
You can have my Jeep, sir.
But no driver. Grinton,
Yes?
you know your way around, don't you? You've been trained to observe.
What?
You can take down a shorthand note and rattle a typewriter, can't you?
Now, just 1 minute, Mr.
You can
Baxter.
drive a jeep. Now, you know the people and the territory.
Look, Mr. Baxter, I don't feel inclined to do any dirty work for the police.
Oh, you disappoint me, Grinton.
Eh?
This is a unique chance in the life of a reporter to be right in on the hunt. Think of the story you'll have when it's all over.
Are you serious?
Are you one of those journalists who combine reporting with photography?
Well, yes.
Then you're perfect in every way. Could you go and load your camera, please, and meet us outside in 5 minutes? Oh, and Titus, bring a stiff yard brush with you, will you?
Yard brush, sir?
That's right.
Where are we going?
It's time we had a look at the body. Now, where did I put that confounded walking stick?
Well, here's a picture that will never make the front page.
What'd you say, Grinton?
Head and shoulders close up. Put people off their cornflakes. How many more do you want?
Just fire away until the camera's empty.
Is there any way of telling how long she's been dead, sir?
It's a question of body heat and the degree of rigor mortis. Unless she's frozen stiff, that's out of the question. Now, this brush, Sergeant, give it here. This is what I want you to do, see? Just brush the snow away. Gently, like this. Gently does it. There, just like that, until you get to the surface. All round the vicinity of the tree, right? Do it very gently, because what we're looking for might be very small.
Well, what are we looking for?
Just lucky dip, maybe nothing at all.
Right you are, sir.
Baxter,
Yes, all right, I'm coming. I can hobble over there. Well, what is it?
you notice anything funny about the way she's tied up? These knots.
Yes, I've been admiring them.
And look at the gag. A bit of twig pushed through the knot.
Yes, a very cunning slip knot. If I removed the twig, pulled this little tag, the gag would just come undone without any effort. I think we'll find her hands are tied behind her in the same way. Now, come, round the other side of the tree. There, see? The killer got her standing against the tree and walked in circles, winding the baler twine round her and the tree a few times. Not too tight, you see, just so that it secured her without cutting into the flesh. And look how it's all tied up. One efficient little knot behind the tree.
And a twig.
A twig to stop it slipping. Just take out that twig and pull the end of the twine, and she'd undo like a statue unveiled by royalty.
But what's the idea?
You tell me.
Sir,
Yes, Sergeant?
blood, sir.
All right, I'm coming. Oh, blasted ankle. Now, where's this blood?
There, sir. Under the eyes.
2 bright red spots. Bring that toolbox over, will you?
Did you say blood? Where?
There, see? 2 little red spots, smaller than farthings. What would you say? 8 to 10 feet from the body.
Is that blood?
I doubt it.
Here's the toolbox, sir.
Chisel and mallet, please. Right. Now, we'll just chip out this little square of ice. There. Now, to lift her up tenderly. Got it. 2 little red spots sandwiched between 2 little panes of ice. Jolly pretty. Titus, just slide your hand inside my breast pocket, will you? You'll find a sheet of white paper and an envelope.
Here we are, sir.
Thank you. Now, I'll put the little pane of ice on the paper and fold it once, twice, 3 times, and into the envelope. Fine. Here you are, Sergeant.
Well, what do I do with this?
Take it back to the mortal man. I'll pick it up when we get back. Oh, and measure the distance from here to the body.
But, sir,
Yes, Titus?
it'll melt. The ice inside the envelope.
Yes, that's right. Now, come on, Grinton. I'm afraid I'll have to lean on you again. We'll see you at lunchtime, Sergeant.
Where are you going now, Mr. Baxter?
To see Miss Moraine's housekeeper at the Lead Hall.
Knock again, Grinton. I gather the old girl's a bit on the deaf side. What on earth happened over there?
Oh, the stables. They burned down, more than a year ago.
Any horses killed?
No, it was converted to living quarters years back. Nobody there at the time of the fire, though. Oh, well, I can hear somebody coming.
Ah, Mr. Baxter, good morning. And Mr. Grinton.
Well, Rector. You certainly cover your parish.
Mr. Baxter, I'm very much afraid the housekeeper, Miss Pegg's, taken the news rather badly.
Oh, yes?
She had a sort of blackout. She's on the settee. I've covered her with a blanket and sent for Dr. Dunsany. Oh, yes, well, you'd better come in. Well, there she is.
Looks as if she's given up the ghost.
That doctor had better be quick. What the hell did you say to her, Synico?
I broke the news as gently as I could.
What business is it of yours? Who told you about this murder, anyway?
There's no need to take that unpleasant line, Mr. Baxter. Consoling the bereaved is one of my duties. And I imagine Sergeant Titus told me the body had been found so that I could call off the search.
Where did Miss Moraine keep her private papers, do you know?
Really, Mr. Baxter, my knowledge of this house is as slight as yours.
There's a room there marked office.
Well, come on. And you, Rector. Ah, yes. Here we are. Now, come in, Rector.
Oh, very nice. A lovely outlook, too.
Stand still for a moment, both of you.
I beg your pardon?
What do you make of that? On the carpet, over by the desk.
What? Oh, a damp patch. Look, and another one here.
Imagine mucking up a beautiful antique carpet like this with wet boots. Doesn't it offend your aesthetic sensibilities, Rector?
I've no idea what you're driving at, Mr. Baxter.
Of course, you've never been in this room, have you?
No.
I have it. Miss Pegg took a stroll in the snow and then came in here to wipe her shoes on this handsome bit of Aubusson. Do you know anything about paintings, Rector?
Not as much as I'd like.
These two, for example. Now look. Unless I'm mistaken, they're very fine.
I wouldn't know, Mr. Baxter.
In fact, this one's a Delacroix.
Really?
Yes, and this one... yes, a Turner.
Oh, you're obviously an expert, Mr. Baxter.
Well, it doesn't take an expert to recognize a Turner. What were you doing in here before we arrived, Rector?
I tell you, I've never entered this room before.
Looking for letters, perhaps?
Letters?
Because if so, you might have tried the bookshelves. Look behind you, the two bottom rows, indexed box files, dozens of them. Ah, yes, that'll be the doctor. You'd better let her in.
Of course.
Right. Bring one of those files over, Grinton. Let's see if it tells us anything.
This is the last load, Mr. Baxter.
You're doing a good job, Constable Grinton. I'm just admiring Dr. Dunsany's pony.
Mr. Grinton! Oh, hello, Superintendent.
Good morning, Doctor.
What is Mr. Grinton doing with all those boxes?
They're box files. Miss Moraine's private correspondence for the last 40-odd years. I'm taking them away to study at my leisure.
41 boxes of bump.
It's an absolutely appalling thing to have happened.
Surprising it didn't happen long ago.
What do you mean?
She was a first-class candidate for murder. How's Miss Pegg?
Well, she's had a terrible shock, but she'll pull through all right. I'm getting a woman from the village to come and look after her.
I'd like to ask her a few questions.
I'll give her a couple of days to get over it.
Of course, of course. I'm just admiring your pony.
Victoria? There, girl. We'll be off in a minute. I put more faith in Victoria than in any motor car.
A fell pony, isn't she?
Yes. Born wild up in the Lakeland fells. Do you know about horses?
I had a brief spell with the mounted police in the remote past. I say, it's a very ingenious little knot you've hitched her up with. You notice it, Grinton?
Pardon? By George,
Yes,
that's
it's a clever little slip knot. Held secure by a pencil, isn't it?
Oh, that, yes. It's just to facilitate a quick getaway. Look, I'll get on and show you. There, little lady. Now, see, I just removed the pencil. So, and we're free to go. Goodbye, gentlemen. See you later, no doubt.
No doubt.
Now, here's your coffee, gents. Was lunch all right?
Went down a treat, me old lad.
What's all that racket in the tap room?
It's the men from the mill, Mr. Baxter. It seems as soon as the news trickled into the mill, they all down tools. You can't move for 'em in the tap room.
What?
They just walked out.
Declared it a holiday. It's not been like this since VE night. Just ring if you want anything else.
Celebrating. You're going to be unpopular, Mr. Baxter.
Oh?
If you catch him. They want to hang a medal round his neck, not a rope.
You seem very sure we're looking for a man.
What? A woman? You think a woman's capable of a crime like this?
I'm keeping an open mind.
Excuse me, sir.
Where's coming, Sergeant? Anything fresh?
All the telephones are down, sir.
My God, the first time in my life I get a decent scoop and the telephones go dead on me.
And we found this, sir.
What is it?
It's Miss Moraine's hat, sir.
A red hat. Where was it?
At the base of the tree, under the snow.
No snow under it.
No, sir. It must have come off before the snow started.
And so she was there before the snow came down, which was midnight, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Oh, he asked me to hold on to this envelope for you, sir. The blood.
Ah, yes. Give it here, will you?
Do you mind, Mr. Baxter? I've just had lunch.
Look the other way if it upsets you. Now, open up. Well. You can look now, Grinton.
No, thanks.
It isn't blood, Grinton. Our two little spots of crimson are still bright and intact. Blood would have watered down when the ice melted.
What is it, then?
Is there by any chance an artist living in Gimmerbeck?
An artist?
This is paint. Oil paint. You say the wife's a bit feeble-minded.
Very beautiful, but very childish. Miss Moraine ran rings round her.
Yes?
Mrs. Sarum, is your husband at home?
George went down by the river with his sketching book. Who are you?
I'm a policeman. Can we come in?
Police? Well, George says that rent business is all finished with. Now Miss Moraine's dead, we're in the clear.
No, it isn't about your rent, Mrs. Sarum.
Well, I paid the rent, honestly, sir. She wrote it down with a pencil and then rubbed it out.
Let us in, woman. Can't you see we're shaking with cold? Come on, Grinton.
Well, George said to let no one in. What is it you want?
Just show me where your husband keeps his painting things, his studio.
Listen, Baxter, don't you need a search warrant for this?
Do you suggest we have one dropped by parachute? What's through here?
Well, you can't go in there, sir. George doesn't allow anybody in there.
Yes. Ah, well, this is it, Grinton. Come and take a look.
I say, there must be hundreds of canvases in here.
An industrious man, George Sarum.
Well, what are you looking for?
His work in progress. Yes, the easel over there by the window.
It's covered up.
Well, let's have a look at it. Take the cover off.
Good grief.
Miss Moraine, in her death agony.
But good grief, man, he must have been there.
And before the snow came down. Still wearing a hat. He's rather good, isn't he?
What?
Well, look at that detail. The effect of the frost on the grass in the moonlight. All he's left out are the crocuses.
Crocuses?
The field was scattered with clumps of yellow crocuses before the snow came down and covered them.
Susan, what's that jeep doing outside?
It's the police, George. A policeman's here.
Police? What the hell are you doing in my workroom?
How do you do, Mr. Salem? My name's Baxter, Detective Superintendent. I think you know Mr. Grinton. We've just been admiring your study of Miss Moraine.
Get out of here. Go on out.
Just as soon as you explain this painting.
Imagination.
Oh, try again, Mr. Salem.
Imagination. Together with what I pieced together from the villagers who saw the body.
Well, when you're ready to tell me the real story, you'll find me at the Mortal Man, Mr. Salem.
I'm an artist, Mr. Baxter. I've got a very powerful imagination.
Obviously, yes. Come on, Grinton. Good night, Mrs. Salem. All right, Sergeant. Now that we've cleared the decks a little, here's what I want you to start doing tomorrow. I want a railway timetable of everybody's movements in Gimmerbeck on Monday night.
Timetable, sir?
See every adult in the village. And make a list of everything they did and the exact time they did it, from 9 o'clock until midnight.
That's over 300 people, sir.
Well, take your time. Nobody's going to run away from here. I'll be spending the next couple of days combing through Miss Moraine's correspondence. When I finish that, you can start bringing the villagers in for a chat with me.
All of them, sir?
One by one. You can get off home now, Sergeant. It's getting on for 10.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, and keep your eyes open, would you, for anybody who's in the habit of using green baler twine.
Right, sir. Good night. Good night, Mr. Grinton.
Night, Sergeant.
Pour me another scotch, will you, Grinton?
I still don't see why you can't arrest George Sarum without going through all this rigmarole.
Could you tie those fancy little knots if you only had one arm?
Well, he had an accomplice, didn't he? You know, you're not a bit like I'd imagined you'd be.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from that newspaper piece I read about you. Baxter, the scourge of the female criminal. I thought you'd be, well, brutal, a fire-eater. You were brought up in an orphanage, weren't you? Won scholarships to Oxford.
Barnardo's to Balliol. Give me another drink.
All those women you sent down the line. Doesn't it give you a few sleepless nights?
No.
Don't you ever feel inclined to, well, to extend a bit of mercy?
Mercy? I've never observed much mercy in women, have you?
Well...
You can get more mercy from a cage full of Bengal tigers.
Well, take Rosalind Withers. A lovely young woman like that.
Ah, do you think youth and beauty should make us overlook wicked conduct? She didn't show much mercy when she abandoned her children, did she? Oh, I know what you're thinking, Grinton. Did he plant that piece of turquoise cotton that got her convicted?
It never crossed my mind.
Well, what if I had, eh? But as it happens, I didn't. Shall I tell you something about Rosalind Withers? She said to me one day when we were alone for a moment, "Yes, I was there. Baxter, you bastard. But you're never going to prove it."
Rosalind Withers did?
But I did prove it, Grinton. Mercy, a woman like that.
Listen. What's that?
What? Oh, it's a brass band on the wireless.
No, hark. It's outside. It's coming this way.
So it is.
I'll open these curtains and take a look-see. If you can stand the draught.
Open away. I've become impervious to cold.
Can't see a sausage. Frosted over.
Open the window.
Catch is stiff. Come on, open. Ah, got it. My God, the mill band.
Marching through the snow.
Up to their ankles. They must be mad. Look, there's a bonfire up the road. People linking hands and circling round the fire.
A village celebration.
Talk about pagan rites.
They're stopping. By the fire. I wonder if George Sarum's there. Orange flames, black sky, the perfect picture for his clever brush. Snowflakes drifting down into the euphoniums. Who's that playing the cornet?
Cornet? Oh, that'll be Norman Minshall. It's a great cornet player, they say.
One of the mill hands?
Yes, all the band are mill hands. Minshall's a great one for odd jobs as well. There's a lot of foreigners in the village.
He's pouring his heart out of that cornet.
I know! The Gimmerbeck British Wool Brass Band did her in.
I don't want to appear rude, Superintendent, but I have already given an account of my movements to Sergeant Titus. And I have a surgery overflowing with patients waiting to see me.
Laryngitis.
What?
Or possibly lockjaw.
Lockjaw?
Inability to talk. Dozens of them coming down with it.
Oh.
I've questioned, over 100 people in the last 3 days. Can't get a word out of them.
They're a bit on guard with off-comers.
A man with a suspicious mind would diagnose a conspiracy of silence, eh, Grinton?
The last 3 days have been a complete washout, unless I blinked once and missed something.
However, you say you went to Aysgarth?
Yes.
What for?
To visit a patient. She used to live in the village, and when she moved to Aysgarth, my father went on attending her.
You started back. At what time?
You've got it written down there.
Remind me.
I left Aysgarth at about 8. The snow had just started.
And then you rode back over the moor?
Yes.
Did you see anybody?
Where?
On the moor.
On the moor?
George Sarum was painting on the moor that night.
It's a big moor, Mr. Baxter.
You left the moor and rode down into the village.
Yes.
Past Miss Morane's house.
Yes.
Past the field where she was tied to the tree.
Well...
Yes?
If she was tied to the tree by that time, how do I know?
And she left home shortly after 9, and you arrived here at the Mortal Man about 9:30 to 9:45.
Yes.
And yet you saw no sign of her.
I saw no sign of her, Mr. Baxter.
You could only have missed her by a matter of minutes, couldn't you?
But I did miss her, Mr. Baxter. I assure you, I did miss her.
It's very good of you to come through this appalling snow, Mrs. Perigord. Won't you sit down? And you, Rector. There. By the way, do you mind, Mr. Grinton, taking notes?
Notes about what, Mr. Baxter?
Well, just in case anything that might be useful crops up. You know, we've had something like 300 people in here for questioning over the last few days, and Grinton's faithfully recorded their every syllable. Would either of you like a drink, by the way?
It's only 5 o'clock, Mr. Baxter. The bar isn't open yet.
I have my own supply.
Not for me, thank you.
Mrs. Perigord, a small whiskey?
Well, thank you.
Yes. This weather chills the heart, doesn't it? I don't know how you feel, but I feel entombed in this place. There you are, Mrs. Perigord.
Thank you.
Yes. 7 solid days of snow and ice. They tell me half a dozen wild ponies were found dead standing on their feet on the edge of the fell this morning. Huddled together for warmth, poor devils. And we'd be in much the same way if the RAF hadn't dropped us those consignments of food.
Could we come down to brass tacks, Mr. Baxter?
Why, yes, Mrs. Perigord, of course. Could you tell me why Miss Moraine was blackmailing you?
I beg your pardon?
Miss Moraine kept a copy of every letter she wrote over the last 40 years or more. Just let me read one to you. Now, this is dated the 9th of January, 1946. About a month after your son died, I think. Dear Madam, I am, as you know, ever desirous of diversifying my interests in this dale, and the Shepherd's Pie restaurant seems to me an investment which could be put on a sound footing given the benefit of my business acumen. I therefore propose purchasing a 50% share in the establishment, and for this I would pay £800. I think our partnership would stand proof against anything but a visitation of pestilence.
I don't call that blackmail. I call it impudence.
How much did you pay for the Shepherd's Pie?
£3,000.
And when was that?
I came here 3 years ago, February 1944. My husband was killed in the Western Desert the summer before. Had to do something to support my child, Mr. Baxter. You know, a lady ruined by the war and forced to turn her hand to trade.
Miss Moraine wasn't discouraged by your first refusal, was she? By your repeated refusals, in fact. Look, more letters. They came at roughly monthly intervals, and each time, this is the thing I find really puzzling, the price she offers becomes smaller. £750, £600. And always that curious remark at the end of her letters, I think our partnership would stand proof against anything but a visitation of pestilence. And then finally, 2 weeks ago, she offered £500 and wrote as follows: failing settlement on these terms within 28 days, the consequences will be as unpleasant as a visitation of pestilence. Now, can you tell me what she means? Pestilence.
She was mad, Mr. Baxter. Isn't that obvious?
Could I turn to you, Mr. Seneca? Perhaps you could tell me why Miss Moraine was blackmailing you.
Mr. Baxter, you really have entered the realms of fantasy and penny dreadfuls.
Would you describe yourself as a rich man, Rector?
I keep my head above the tide.
You inherited a large sum 3 or 4 years ago. How much was that? Well?
£19,000.
And some paintings, I think.
Just 2?
A Turner and a Delacroix, in fact.
Yes.
Which we saw the other day at Miss Moraine's.
Yes.
I have a letter here where Miss Moraine offers to give them wall space. She says the rectory is unsuitable, too damp. And if anything happened to the paintings, it would be as distressing as, here it is again, a visitation of pestilence. Did she take the £19,000 as well?
Why on earth should she do that?
You still have it?
I'm afraid I gambled it all away, Mr. Baxter.
That was good going. The visitation of a pestilence, Rector, what does that mean?
I really don't know, Mr. Baxter. Could it be gambling, do you think?
We struggled up the hill to see Miss Moraine's housekeeper yesterday, didn't we, Grinton? Miss Pegg. She's still very low, Rector, but she did manage to tell us what Miss Moraine said about that telephone call that took her out of the house on the night she died. The fools agreed to settle. That's all she said. And then she put on her hat and coat and went out. The fools agreed to settle. Now, it could mean one fool or several, couldn't it? And then Miss Pegg said something very curious. I happened to mention the fire that destroyed the stables at the Lead Hall, and she said it was a mercy it hadn't happened while the sick children were still there. I asked what sick children she meant, and she broke down. I couldn't get any more out of her. Could either of you enlighten me about these sick children? No, I thought not. On our way back from the Lead Hall, I decided it was time I had a look inside the little hermitage. I understand it's church property, Rector. I'm afraid I had to pick the lock.
That was an unwarranted trespass, Superintendent.
What would you call it? A shrine? We found these 3 photographs on the, well, what do you call it, the altar? 3 children.
Why couldn't you leave the place in peace?
I had to identify the photographs. Grinton didn't recognize any of them.
And now you know, Mr. Baxter.
Yes, the landlord identified them. Your son, Mrs. Perigord, and your daughter, Mr. Sineker, and I believe this is the son of Sergeant Titus.
We committed no crime, Mr. Baxter. I don't see what connection there can be between our private griefs and your inquiry.
You don't? A shrine? A shrine where you went secretly, the 2 of you and Sergeant Titus? Where you went by night, furtively, to light candles and kneel before the images of your dead children? Why? To seek their forgiveness? To make atonement to them? To salve your consciences?
They died young. They were all we had.
Influenza? You still mean to tell me they died of influenza?
You could see the death certificates.
Ah, signed by Dr. Dunsany Sr.?
Yes.
Who shortly afterwards killed himself. The man who took your children to the Lead Hall, where the stables were hastily turned into a hospital for treatment which ended in the death of all 3.
They died of influenza.
And yet you carried on this highly peculiar and what seems to me very unhealthy form of child worship. And you go on torturing yourself, Mrs. Perigord. Your nerves have been in shreds ever since, and if I'm not mistaken, you go in for a good deal of drinking.
Oh, really, Baxter?
I lost my husband and then my son. Wouldn't you drink?
All right. Just one more question for the moment. Mrs. Perigord, I understand you've been making big changes at the Shepherd's Pie.
We're extending into the barn, yes.
It gives plenty of work to a handyman like Norman Minchell, doesn't it?
Minchell?
Yes, quite apart from his job at the mill, I believe he's a one-man building and joinery firm. He's doing your extension, isn't he?
Yes.
Now, I see from your statement to Sergeant Titus that on Monday you were at home all evening at the Shepherd's Pie until about 9:45.
Yes.
And then you came here to the Mortal Man for a nightcap with Mr. Sineker. You may remember we met briefly.
We spent the evening going through the parish accounts.
In your living quarters over the restaurant?
Yes, yes.
And you can corroborate that, Rector?
That's what happened.
Well, it's just that Norman Minchell claims he called at the Shepherd's Pie about 8:30 and could get no answer.
But he never comes on Mondays.
He said he'd left his spirit level behind. He needed it for some other foreigner he was working on. There was a light burning upstairs, but he could get no answer.
I do believe the wireless may have been on rather loud.
He returned again at 9:30. Light still burning, but no response to repeated knocking and ringing.
Oh, Mr. Minchell must be confused.
Why do you keep baler twine, Mrs. Perigord?
Baler twine?
Green baler twine. Grinton and I happened to take a look round your outbuildings a couple of days ago. It was Grinton who came across it, a roll of green baler twine.
You searched my outbuildings? Why?
It was in the old saddle room.
But that faces onto the road. The doors are never locked. Don't you see? Anybody could have gone in there and taken it.
What do you need with baler twine?
I use it to cover lampshades, to make table Oh, no, what are they trying to do to me?
Oh, just keep calm, Charlotte. You're perfectly innocent.
Oh, innocence means nothing to him, can't you see? A couple of yards of baler twine, 2 inches of turquoise cotton. He'll do anything to hang a woman, don't you understand?
Oh, Charlotte, keep your head.
Perhaps she'd like another glass of whiskey.
You really are beneath contempt, aren't you, Baxter? Come on, Charlotte. I'm taking you home.
Oh, why does he want to hang me?
Come on, out of here. There's nothing he can do to hurt you. I assure you.
All right, I'm coming. Now, what's all this about? Grinton!
Let me in, Titus, quick.
Listen, it's after 1 in the morning. That's That's right. Not your snow all over the carpet.
Titus, listen. He's gone up to the church.
Baxter has?
I thought I'd better warn you.
The church? Well, then he'll kill himself. Save us all a lot of heartache, won't he?
He's gone on a ruddy horse.
He's what?
He was sitting there all night, after the rector and Mrs. Perigord had gone, staring into the fire and swigging his whisky. And then, about half an hour ago, he suddenly turned to me and said, the parish registers.
Parish registers?
He said the rector would have entered the true cause of the deaths in the parish registers.
Clever swine.
Did he?
God knows.
And then he got me to drive him to Dr. Dunsany's. He borrowed her pony and started off up the hill.
She let him go?
He was in no mood for arguing.
OK. Now listen, Grinton. Go and tell the rector what's happened. Tell him to get his climbing gear on and meet me at the bridge as soon as he can.
That's a lethal-looking shotgun you've got on the wall, Sergeant.
Shotgun? Don't tempt me, Grinton. Now move, man.
Titus! Titus! Not so fast.
Are you all right, Mr. Sineco?
I keep losing sight of you. This confounded snow. My glasses are fogged over.
Only a few yards now.
I'm whacked, Titus.
Quiet. We're nearly there. Look.
What is it?
A light. In the church.
So Baxter made it. Any sign of the horse? Listen.
Tapping. Kind of hammering.
It's coming from the graveyard. Look. A little light glowing in the graveyard.
He's got a lamp. What's he up to? Come on, let's get a bit nearer.
Quietly now.
God, I walked straight into the pony. I didn't see it.
Quiet.
He's going this way.
Who's there? Hello? Who's there? I've got a gun and I know where you are. Now, who's there?
It's all right, Baxter. We're over here.
Sineco?
And Sergeant Titus. We were worried about you.
Well, that's very considerate of you.
You can put the gun away, Mr. Baxter.
Gun? What's this? Take a closer look.
A hammer?
Yes, I've got a chisel too. You see, Rector, I was looking for your parish registers and hadn't banked on that strong old safe you keep in your vestry. I take it the registers are in the safe?
Yes.
You must prize them highly. So I thought I'd take a look at the gravestones of your children and see if the inscriptions gave any hint of the way they died. The stones are thick with ice. I've been trying to chip it off to see what's underneath.
Our children were cremated. They have no gravestones.
Then I've been wasting my time, haven't I? Come on. I want you to open that safe.
Typhoid fever.
Yes, Mr. Baxter.
Down here in your own very neat hand. All three of them died from typhoid fever.
That doesn't make us murderers, sir.
I take it your religious scruples prevented you from hiding the truth in a document kept lying in the church, Mr. Sineco.
Our children's deaths and Miss Moraine's are unconnected.
I'm going to have the full truth from all of you.
Mr. Baxter, listen.
Not tonight. Tomorrow. Sleep on it, the pair of you. I want you all in the Mortal Man at 10 in the morning.
All of us?
I want Mrs. Perigord and Dr. Dunsany there as well, and George Selwyn. And now, if you're fit, we'll be moving.
You're taking the register?
Naturally.
You have another register there, Mr. Baxter, an old one. You surely don't need that.
Don't tell me what I want, huh? Now, if you're ready, you can follow the horse. She'll show you the way down.
We'll make our own way, Superintendent.
You'll come with me.
Well, Mrs. Perigord?
Yes, Superintendent?
It's 10:10. Where have the rector and Sergeant Titus got to?
I haven't seen them since 8 o'clock this morning. They said they'd try to be here on time.
Try? Where have they gone?
They didn't tell me.
And Serum, do you know where he is?
No.
Dr. Dunsany, do you know anything about this?
Perhaps they overslept. They were up most of the night, weren't they?
Very amusing. Grinton?
Couldn't say, Mr. Baxter.
By God, it bites your face off out there.
Serum, have you seen the rector and Sergeant Titus?
No, why? Have they stood you up? Let me get to that fire.
You're late.
There's a blizzard, hadn't you noticed? Kept blowing me back home. What's all this about, anyway?
Will you all sit down? We'll have to make a start without them. That's right. Close to the fire. Put another log on, will you, Serum? I hope your pencils are sharpened, Grinton.
Ready when you are.
Right. We all know by now There's been a conspiracy in this village to cover up an epidemic of typhoid fever. The question is whether this, in its turn, led to a conspiracy to murder.
Mr. Baxter?
Yes, Doctor?
Did you say typhoid fever?
Dr. Dunsany pretends ignorance.
It isn't pretense. Hilary knows nothing about it.
Really? Well, perhaps you could enlighten her, Mrs. Perigord.
Charlotte, what in heaven's name does he mean, typhoid?
Well, it started... Does Mr. Grinton really have to write all this down?
Of course.
It all started when Sergeant Titus came back from India. Oh, the foolish man was too impatient, that's all. They told him he'd have to wait for a passage, but he was anxious to get home. His wife hated the climate. And so he approached some people he knew in the RAF, and they arranged him a series of hops home by aeroplane. None of this would have happened if he'd waited for the boat. There'd have been medical checks. We could see his boy was none too well as soon as he got here, but we'd put it down to the long journey. He played with our children a couple of times, Arthur Synico's and mine, and then he collapsed. Dr. Dunsany had a look at him, and that same night he called us all together at the Lead Hall.
All of you?
The rector, Sergeant Titus, and me. And Miss Moraine.
Why Miss Moraine?
Because of the mill. Dr. Dunsany was proposing to close it down till all the workers had been given medical clearance.
Ah, yes. Go on, please.
Miss Moraine had different ideas. Oh, we were fools to listen to her, but we were distracted out of our minds. And she made it all sound so plausible. It was December 1945, remember? People were planning their first holidays after the war. We'd been looking forward to a highly profitable season. It wasn't even Christmas, and the summer bookings were unbelievable. Miss Moraine said that the very mention of typhoid would ruin all that. And then she turned to Dr. Dunsany and asked him if he hadn't worked on typhoid cases. And when he said he had, but the patients had to be isolated, she asked what was wrong with her stable block. And it just snowballed from there.
Dr. Dunsany was thinking of the capital. He'd sunk into his pony trekking.
Oh, it wasn't just that. He genuinely believed he could cope.
I don't see why Sergeant Titus agreed to this. A criminal deception.
Titus came into the country by the back door, don't you see? He'd already committed a serious offence by sidestepping the medical procedure for entering the country.
And the rector?
Well, Arthur had very serious reservations, but he could see it would mean disaster for the village if the news got out. He said we'd just come through a hard war and we deserved some reward. And he had faith in Dr. Dunsany.
But everything went wrong.
It all turned into a nightmare.
3 children died. The stable block was burned down because it had been infected by a visitation of pestilence. And Dr. Dunsany, already at the end of his tether because of what he'd done to those children, was sucked dry by Miss Moraine and decided to put an end to himself. Well, Doctor, you had a very powerful motive.
Yes, Mr. Baxter. And if I'd known about it, I wouldn't have hesitated.
You sins?
At times, it may not be a sin at all.
And you, Serum? Do you share that dangerous view?
Absolutely.
Perhaps now you're ready to tell me how you came to paint that remarkable picture of Miss Moraine.
I'd have thought you'd have worked that out by now, Baxter.
All right. I was up on the moor painting when something caught my eye. You have a superb panoramic view of the village up there. Something was moving down towards the village. Something red bobbing along among the shadows on the moor road. That's Miss Moraine, I thought. Red hat. Now, where's she off to? None of this was any too clear, mind you. It was mostly obscured by shadows and trees, and she was a good half-mile below me. But the hat kept showing in the moonlight. Next time I looked up, she'd stopped at the field gate. Then I saw that red hat moving into the field, and that did make me sit up a bit. And there was just a vague impression of another figure moving along behind her, but at that moment the moon went behind a cloud. I started packing up my gear. Oh, and then I heard a horse coming over the moor.
Yes.
Dr. Dunsany. She went off down the road towards the village. On my way home, I had a nose round the field to see what had been going on. There she was, trussed like a turkey and stone dead.
Dead?
Died of fright, didn't she? You don't think I'd have left her there if she'd been alive?
Wouldn't you?
To be honest, I don't know.
So, you calmly set about painting her picture?
It was a magnificent subject, Baxter. And to me it was like dancing on a coffin.
Why didn't you report this to anybody?
And give the good man who did it no chance to cover his tracks. I'm not inclined to hand anybody over to so-called justice.
Justice has a way of catching up. Cynico.
Oh, good morning.
Titus, where in God's name have you two been?
I'm sorry we're late, sir.
Nowhere of importance, Baxter, I assure you. We were just unavoidably delayed. Please go on with what you were saying.
I was just about to say, Rector, that justice has a way of catching up, and that the feeblest prosecution could tear all your stories into snowflakes. None of you. You, Rector, Mrs. Perigord, Titus, Sarum, Dr. Dunsany, none of you can give a faintly credible account of your movements on the night of Miss Moraine's death.
Excuse me, Mr. Baxter, but Mrs. Perigord and the rector were with me, sir, at the Hermitage.
Which is what, 200 yards from where the body was found?
And then there's the question of your movements. Isn't there, Mr. Baxter?
My movements?
Well, sir, your story was that you were trying to get up to the church that night, to look at a Norman doorway. Only nobody saw you, did they?
We've just been up to the church again, Baxter. That's why we were a little late.
What?
To discover what you were hammering away at in the churchyard last night. Your story about trying to read the inscriptions on our children's graves rang terribly false, you know. At any rate, we soon discovered the gravestone you'd been trying to deface. We interrupted you before you could obliterate the name, didn't we? The grave of a woman who froze to death nearly 40 years ago when she was turned out of her cottage by Miss Moraine. A woman named Baxter. Your mother, Mr. Baxter? Could somebody give Mr. Baxter a glass of whiskey?
Here, I'll do it. There. Get that down you, Mr. Baxter.
Thanks, Grinton.
That old church register you brought down with you last night, Mr. Baxter, that was for 1909, wasn't it? The record of her burial. I suppose you've torn the page out and burnt it. A pity, that.
What led to these, speculations?
It was something you said to Mr. Grinton. You said the field was full of crocuses, yellow crocuses, before the snow came down. Except, as far as anyone knew, you never saw the field till it was covered in snow.
I could have cut my tongue out the moment I said it. Grinton didn't seem to notice.
And since then, we have been wondering about you, Mr. Baxter. But we were far from sure. We couldn't understand why. We haven't your brilliant analytical mind.
No, my God, you haven't. Mind is lacking. Guts is lacking. Heart is lacking. A population of 400 fools and cowards.
Cowards, Mr. Baxter? It wasn't we who murdered an old woman in cold blood.
40 years. And what opposition did you put up?
Oh, what are you suggesting, that we should have murdered her?
How many lives had she ruined and destroyed?
Civilized people are held back, Mr. Baxter, by their consciences.
While their families and neighbours suffer, and the wicked thrive. If you tolerate evil, don't you see, you're laying up trouble for everybody. There wasn't one man among you with the guts to say enough.
So you calmly planned to come here and commit murder and place the blame on us?
You're the guilty ones, morally. That's why I wanted you in the dock, and I think I could have brought it off, but for that one slip of the tongue. I'd have been well pleased to see you hang the whole village, if necessary, for cowardice in the face of the enemy. But planned? No. No, it wasn't planned. It was quite spontaneous. You'd better write this down in your notebook, Grinton.
Mr. Baxter, I'm going to have to ask you...
Let him finish, Sergeant.
No, it wasn't planned. I wasn't aware of Miss Moraine's existence until I arrived here that night. I knew my mother was buried at the church here, but little of her history. Didn't care, as a matter of fact. All I knew was that she abandoned me when I was 6 years old. I remember that very clearly. Her dumping me on a neighbour and not coming back. All my life, I had never forgiven her for that. Anyway, I was in Rigworth and I decided to pay a call on my birthplace, visit her grave. And then when I got here, I heard the full story. And I just decided that woman had to be taken care of. It was done on impulse, like all the best murders. I phoned her up and said I'd give her the £50 she wanted for the damage to her car. That woman would have gone anywhere for £50. Remember what she told her housekeeper? The fools agreed to settle. I walked up the hill, working out how I'd do it. Everything seemed to be on my side, no people about. I needed a rope, and the saddle room door was open at the Shepherd's Pie. I cut off a length of baler twine and carried on up the hill. After that, it was a piece of cake. She was just as weak and pathetic as all of you are when it actually came down to it. Went meekly as a lamb. I tied her up and finished it off with slip knots. The plan was to come back here and then go out to her at 4 in the morning. She'd be dead by then. I was going to untruss her. Those knots come apart quite easily, don't they, Doctor? And then leave her lying in the field as though she'd simply frozen to death. Had a fall, possibly, or some kind of seizure. By 7, I'd have been away from here. By the time anybody got suspicious, if they ever did, I'd have been forgotten. But I sprained my ankle on the way back. No chance of getting out at 4 to tidy her up. And then the snow came down.
And then the snow came down.
And it's still coming down. You know, the moor, all at once, seems a very attractive place. Nothing but miles of clean snow.
Mr. Baxter, where do you think you're going?
Have you ever heard of Captain Oates, Sergeant?
Captain Oates?
Let him pass, Sergeant.
Thank you, Rick. I'm just going outside. I may be some time.
Well, what now?
Somebody put a log on the fire. It's gone very chilly in here.
In Colder Than of Late by Ken Whitmore, Detective Superintendent Baxter was played by John Franklin Robbins. Sarah Minshall was Judith Barker, Norman Minshall and George Sarum, Russell Dixon, Martha Moraine, Sheila Price, Peter and Sergeant Titus, John Jardine, Stanley Grinton, Harry Beattie, Arthur Synico, Ronald Herdman, Charlotte Perigord and Susan Sarum, Heather Stoney, Dr. Dunsany and Rose, Bonnie Hurren. The play was produced and directed in Manchester by Alfred Bradley.
Death on the District Line.
In the dream train, Mummy and Daddy will return one day. And at the station they will see me waiting. And they will say, "Mary, why are you up so late?" And I will say, "Because I love you." And they will say, they will smile, and they will take my hand, and they will take me home.
Miss? You've not got your nightdress on, miss. What is it?
My Mummy and Daddy. I'm waiting for them.
I'd best call the police, miss. Will you wait?
It's all right, Mary.
Do you know her, sir?
Yes, I'm her grandfather. Mary. She's still asleep. Mary.
If she wanders out, sir, what's to stop her wandering onto the track?
I know that.
I'm only saying.
She'll be all right. Here's 6pence for your trouble. Mary, come home with me now.
I'm so tired. Are you tired? You look tired. Many people would think going to the theatre, free seats, reviewing plays, what a life. But it appalls me. These ridiculous people aping human behaviour up on the stage, what is it for? And the repulsive audiences, mouths open, heads thrown back, laughing like jackals. And what do?
You sleep through the show?
I sleep to survive. Then back to an oyster house and bang out a review. Mr. Rowbottom's Nanky Poo, whilst finely sung, lacked what I can only call full oriental conviction. What I want to say is, he sang like a drain and the audience, being morons, loved it.
Why don't you ask your editor if you can do something else?
I have asked. I only want to do one thing, and Jenkins says no.
The crime desk?
That's right, the real world, where the real drama is. The police against the criminals. Those are the significant stories of our time, not cucumber sandwiches and handbags lost in railway stations. Mary, I feel as though my life, my real life, is going on elsewhere. Do you ever feel like that?
No.
You don't suffer from my divine discontent?
No. I don't have the luxury.
I'm sorry?
Your Byronic strictures. Wonderful. And tedious. Do you mind me saying that? In a moment, I shall go home. You will go back to your office. Your colleagues will say, "Well, Charles, another dramatic evening," and you will regale them for half an hour, or an hour even, with your suffering, for which we have so much respect. Whilst I will return to a dingy house in Finchley, to a grandfather who will question me on my evening, probably. Or else tomorrow at breakfast will greet me with gentle hints to the effect that I was late. Late? I'm 22 years old. But I'm sorry, I interrupted. You were saying, you're suffering?
Mary?
And I will wait. And wait. For women do wait, are brought up to wait, are virtue. Patience.
No,
you don't. Ever since we met, you haven't. Why did we meet?
Why?
I mean, how?
On a platform. You fainted. On the underground. I took you home.
Yes.
And that's how we...
Yes. I saw something dreadful tonight. A broom out of control ran over a cat in the road. Its body was writhing, turning. Other people looked away. I had to watch until it died.
That's the world, Mary. Animals die in agony. It's appalling, but at least it's real. If you seize it.
Yes. Do you want those oysters?
I'd have to bring in my own story. That's the only way I get accepted. I mean, something significant. Jenkins couldn't ignore it. I'd be in.
Yes, I see.
That's what I need. And then... here's your station.
What?
Now, Mary, what is this?
I don't... I don't think...
I thought perhaps a train tonight.
No, a cab.
Expensive. And unnecessary.
Then I'll walk.
You'll walk? No.
I had hoped...
Mary.
That you might...
Mary.
See me home?
I have this review, haven't I, to finish? What can I do? Mary, listen. You never told me. Why are you frightened of trains?
The angel came to the train, flew down, and Mummy and Daddy bowed. The angel said, "Come with me." And they cried because they didn't want to leave me. "Mummy, Daddy, don't go with the angel," I would have said, and then they would have stayed. But I didn't. I didn't say it. Because I was asleep. And when I woke, they were gone.
I didn't hear you come in last night.
I was late. Not very late. I couldn't find a cab.
I see.
Charles had to go back to his office.
How was the theatre?
Gilbert and Sullivan.
Ah, yes. Was it amusing?
Yes. Enchanting.
Enchanting?
What?
Well, I would hardly have thought Gilbert and Sullivan enchanting.
It was diverting. It was...
Oh, that's all right. How are you feeling this morning?
A slight headache.
Dear old London smog delivering its blessing. And how is Mr. Lester?
Very well.
Good. Is he enchanting?
What are you working on?
The statue.
Will you be in the workshop all day?
I shall.
I'll bring you lunch.
please. What's going on?
Let me get out of here!
Madam, what is it?
On the train! That man!
What are you saying you did? He did something to you? Sir. Sir, there's a young woman out there. She's upset. Can you hear me? Oi, I'm talking to you. Look at me. He's dead.
All lives are made significant in death. Can we say that, Sergeant? Can we go that far? What is it about death that seems to promote even trivial lives to a higher plane? A man gets on a train. He's on his way home. He is thinking about his supper. Possibly the evening ahead. Perhaps something still rankles in his mind. Someone at the office, some thought. He pushes it aside, leaves it. Has he remembered to buy that something for his wife, which he has promised and she has long demanded? Before that man reaches home, he is shot through the heart. That man, who has never said a serious thing in his life, suddenly, in death, attains solemnity.
His name was Conrad Gresham.
Here at Scotland Yard, sudden, violent, transforming death is our daily portion. And so, therefore, when we express sorrow, bafflement, rage, we must choose our words with care. Mustn't we?
Yes, Sergeant.
We must not grow insensitive. Your thoughts?
It wasn't suicide.
You're confident?
I've searched the carriage. There was no weapon.
Mightn't he have got rid of it?
You mean thrown it out of the window?
For example?
After shooting himself?
Good.
And then he would have had to shut the window.
Was the window shut?
I'll find out. All the same...
All the same what?
It looks very much like a man was shot in a closed carriage by an invisible assailant, doesn't it, Sergeant?
The victim, any financial problems?
Well, I don't know yet, Sergeant.
Then go and ferret around his office.
Yes, Sergeant.
Who's that woman outside?
His wife. Will you see her now?
Yes. Let her in, Rich.
Madam?
Mrs. Gresham. My name is Detective Sergeant Duane. Thank you for coming to see me.
I wanted to. My husband, I'm sure.
Well,
he travelled on the train every day. The district line.
Yes.
The district line for his life. Oh, why did this happen?
I haven't got an answer.
It's funny, isn't it? You say, when the children have left home, you will do this, that, and the other. And you say, you discuss it. Your plans, aren't they? We said we will travel. We thought we'd go to Egypt. He said he wanted to see the pyramids. I said, whatever for? But he wanted it. A stubborn man. And now he won't.
I will catch the person who did it.
You'll catch him. I see. And will that show the pyramids to my husband? Will it?
The woman in the train said you saw a cigarette still burning at Gresham's feet.
Yes.
A cigarette of that particular brand takes 5 minutes to burn that far down. Working backwards, then. From Charing Cross to Temple, your timing.
1.5 minutes. Half a minute stop at Temple, then from Temple back to Blackfriars, 2 minutes. 4 minutes so far.
Carry on.
55, 6, 7, 8, 9...
Now! The train was in this tunnel when Gresham was shot. By the way, you've mentioned to the station inspector that we're on the track.
Oh, yes, Sergeant.
We're not going to get killed.
I don't think so.
I should be awfully annoyed, Rich.
Yes, Sergeant.
Go on.
Could he have been shot from within the compartment?
There was no one else in there. You've seen the station inspector's report.
Yes.
Fired, therefore, from the outside and from somewhere near here.
Perhaps from one of the ledges under the bridge.
A sniper?
Yes.
Waited down here and shot at a moving train.
It's possible.
Without breaking the windows.
He opened the window, fired in and shut it afterwards.
So, now your man is attached to the train in some way, gripping hold of the side, prizing a window open, aiming, firing, closing the window, and and then what? The limitations of deductive reasoning, eh, Rich? And then what? disappearing into the tunnel? How? And what are we looking for, a man or an angel of death?
Oh, look at this.
Who wrote it?
Jameson. The man's a buffoon. Listen. 1 week after the murder of the elderly businessman on the district line, the police remain foxed. What is that supposed to mean?
Foxed? You don't know
I'm
what...
saying it's out of place, baffled, perhaps confused, at a loss. All right, but foxed, Mary?
I don't understand.
I can write better than Jameson.
I see. Of course.
I cannot bear another Tuesday night at the theatre.
Charles, I want to talk to you.
What?
My grandfather wants to move to Canada.
Why?
He used to live there. He wants to go back.
Let him go, then.
What do you think of it?
What do I think?
Yes, Charles.
I think he's a hell of a long way.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what? I don't understand it.
He wants me to go with him.
Are you going?
I might.
Mary?
I might. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you want me to...
I don't...
Oh, I can't think about these things. Not now. What? Oh, you're crying. Well, we've never said... I haven't, have I? Oh, Mary.
No, Charles, you never said anything.
Oh, Mary.
Mr. Lester.
Yes.
There's been another murder on a train, they reckon. Down there in the station.
Oh, my God.
So you were there?
That's right.
Mr...
Lester.
First?
Not exactly first.
But on the scene?
I'm a reporter.
Ah.
I got my story.
You must be happy.
I made notes.
If there isn't anything else...
the scene of the crime. Do you want me to read them to you?
Well, my constable will take your statement.
I think they're important.
I'd better hear them then. Is that what you're saying?
Well...
Please, Mr. Lester.
First-class carriage, number 32, District Line train, St. James's Park. Time 9:25 p.m. Man's body, dressed in a dark grey overcoat with velvet collar, dark trousers, black diagonal coat and vest, patent leather shoes, Lincoln and Bennett hat, bruised from a fall. Face, so far as visible, dark and pale. Age, about 45. 4-coil snake ring with ruby and diamond setting. In vest, exactly over heart, small, clean-cut hole. No singeing or burning, no smell of powder, no signs of struggle. Window furthest from platform, closed. Note, exactly a week to the minute almost since discovery of the murder at Charing Cross last week. Is this accident or horrible intention?
Very good. Very terse.
Thank you. Who was he?
Mr. George Villas, commercial traveller of West Kensington.
Isn't there a connection between them? I mean the two murders.
I don't know. You say there's a connection. I say, what is it? These two men didn't know each other.
And neither was robbed?
No. So, thank you for coming in.
Is that it?
I've got to go.
Well, I'd like to come with you.
Why should you come with me?
Do you ever go to the theatre?
What are you asking?
If you ever go to the theatre, I'm sure you don't. Your life is too significant. The battle with crime, the large issue of our time. I spend my evenings in the theatre, where people bray like donkeys because a man's wife has fallen in love with a vicar.
That's quite good.
No, it isn't. It's inane. It's so stupid, it's beyond forgiveness.
So...
Have you ever seen a man die? I will die one day, and what have I done?
All right. Come with me. This is the carriage the last one died in.
What are you looking for?
They were shot between stations from the outside. The windows of the compartments were closed. Mr. Lester.
The murderer was holding on?
That's what my constable said. So, let's see if it's possible. Right. So, I can just about get up, but the train is stationary. So, anyway, he clambers along. Yes?
Yes?
Open, sir.
Oh, you all right?
I saw something up there. Can you see? In the grime?
Scratch marks.
Yes, they go back along the carriage, see?
Yes.
Now, what do you think caused those?
Well, they look as though...
Yes?
I mean, they look as though some large animal had clawed its way along. Is that likely?
No.
I make my way along the empty track towards the tunnel. It is a whispering that calls me. And though I am frightened, I must go into the dark. I'm coming, for somewhere in the tunnels they have put Mummy and Daddy, and I must find them and tell them, "Wake up! Wake up! Why are you sleeping? Are you hurt? Daddy! Mummy! Wake up!"
Mary!
I was asleep. Why am I asleep?
Mary!
I would wake up.
You are awake. Shh. Shh. You're here. You're safe.
I was dreaming.
I heard you. Listen, you're all right now.
Grandad?
But we must leave. Sometimes it is best to leave a place. If it's making you... If you are haunted, leave. Leave. Because otherwise, our lives will be lived in dreams. Won't they? And we cannot bear to...
What?
I want you to say you'll come with me. It's a large figure.
It's magnificent.
When it's finished, we'll go. Yes? Come up a little further. Look. You see the head? You're not frightened of the height?
I never was. How many times have I climbed up the scaffolding to see your sculptures?
Nevertheless, put the safety harness on.
And this is your last?
Yes. If nobody will buy...
Oh, somebody will.
Nobody. I won't do generals or princes. Will not do that. So, no one will buy. Though I hope to get a little attention with this.
Yes, I'm sure you will.
We'll see. You slept?
Yes.
And have you thought about what I said? It's a hard decision for you. Since your parents died...
I know.
I claim no rights, of course. You're hesitating. Have you heard from Mr. Lester?
No.
You haven't seen him lately?
He's been busy.
I read his article, front page. He's pleased with his promotion.
I expect so.
We cling to our old lives because we're frightened. We fear what we don't know. That's our nature. But we can be free. Mary, come with me, won't you?
Yes.
Could you do that? Could you? A moving train in the dark, the wall above you, how far? A few feet away? It could scrape you off that carriage and bang your body along the shaft of the tunnel and drop you like a bloody rag. Could you do that?
When I was a child, we played in tunnels.
Did you?
We'd dare each other. You'd go into the tunnel. You had to go through the whole tunnel on your own. So you couldn't get out of it. You had to go. The beginning was okay, then you get further and there's a point.
I know.
There's a point in the tunnel.
I know. You have to go on.
You could turn back.
You could.
I never could go on.
I never could turn back.
The killer isn't frightened.
No, he isn't. But what are you frightened of? Your name on the front page, ambitions realized, no more doubts, chance. Come in. Constable.
There's been another murder, Sergeant. On a train.
I'm awake, and the light is on. It sways in the ceiling, and its light moves with the motion of the train. Mummy and Daddy are talking. I wake again. They are asleep. The window is moving. It is opening. But what is opening it? It is the fire. A flash. Mummy! I am awake. Daddy!
Carl Grub, between Mansion House and Victoria Station. Bullet through the heart. Windows closed. No sign of a struggle. Sergeant?
I heard.
What are we doing?
You've organised the flares for next Tuesday.
Yes, Sergeant.
The tunnels will be guarded.
Yes, Sergeant.
The stations patrolled.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Yes, Sergeant.
You could find out if anything like this has ever happened before. Check the records.
Grandad? Grandad?
Mary, what are you doing here?
I have the evening paper.
What are you doing in here? I wasn't here. You came in. I wasn't here.
I'm sorry. They're making bets.
What are you talking about?
It says so in the paper. People are making bets about these dreadful... What station will be the next one? What nationality will the victim be? His age, his occupation? Can you believe such... Don't they realise?
I don't involve myself in the activities of the herd. And neither should you. We leave soon.
May I see what you're working on?
I've finished for tonight.
Show me.
It isn't ready.
Oh, uncover it.
Don't ask.
I'm going to look.
Mary, I will show you in good time. I'm sorry. You work on something happily. The hours pass happily, and then you reach a point where for the first time you consider the possibility of failure.
No.
You were perhaps mistaken. Doubts return. It's always this way, Mary.
I'm sure it'll be lovely.
What?
I'm confident.
You know, in certain states of mind, there is nothing more truly repellent to me than shallow optimism.
I'm sorry.
Contrary to most religious teachings on the subject, I consider hope a curse. Who was it said, despair young and don't look back? He was a wise man.
I'll go.
I'm sorry. Mary.
It's all right.
I'm sorry. It is a blackness.
I know.
And I should be cheering you, my God.
We cheer each other.
Yes.
I've cooked you a nice supper.
I don't deserve you. No, it's very simple. I don't. If I lost you, what would I have? Now, these steps are rickety.
Grandad.
You could trip. Now, this is the kind of thing that can happen. Promise me you won't come in here. I mean, when I'm not here.
All right.
Solemnly promise.
Yes. Yes.
Tuesday, the 25th of November.
I know.
3 days' time.
I have taken steps.
You can't stop him.
You could be wrong.
You're going to stop him?
I'm just saying.
You can't. Can you? Why not invite him?
What?
Give him a target. I mean, your target, not his.
Explain.
You set someone up. You put them in a first-class railway carriage on the district line next Tuesday night.
Right.
You put a policeman under one seat, say, and a couple more on top of the train. You wait. Our man comes. You nab him.
A decoy? Is that the idea?
Yes.
I see.
You draw him in. You see, that's the beauty of it. You draw him in.
Into your net.
That's it.
So, we'd be looking for a volunteer.
I'd go for it.
You would?
I would.
Now, why would you do that?
Why? I don't... What do you mean, why?
Your motives.
What's that got to do with it?
Are we looking for headlines? Crime reporters brushed with death. I saw the killer and live to tell the tale.
No.
Except you might not. And where's the advantage in posthumous fame?
What are you frightened of?
What did you say?
What are you frightened of?
I'm the one who walked through tunnels.
So give me my chance.
Is that it?
I'm asking you.
That is the difference between the amateur and the professional. The amateur does things for love, the professional doesn't.
This is very important to me.
All the more reason not to do it.
Please!
Charles, go and do something else.
You won't stop him. Lights in the tunnel. He'll work round you. You know it.
Go away. Charles, go and seek your life elsewhere.
I woke. There were lights along the tunnel. And a face. And he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Mary." And I said, "Where are my mummy and daddy? Where are my mummy and daddy?" And then Grandad told me. He said, "An angel came and took them to heaven."
The flare light men are in the tunnel, Mr. Rich.
Yes, Sergeant. Concentrating on Mansion House and Victoria.
I want 6 men in the tunnel between Victoria and Sloane Square. I want it lit up like firework night.
Sir.
I wish they were policemen, not railway guards. I want it tight. The proverbial duck's rear end, if you would.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Dwayne!
Yes, Constable.
Someone's been shot, sir!
What? Which train?
Not on the train. In a tunnel. One of our men, sir. Looks like he was shot from a train as it passed.
Is he bad?
I couldn't say yet, sir. Took it in the leg.
I'll come. Where the hell is Rich? Constable Cran, is it?
Sir.
How are you feeling?
Sort of numb, sir.
Lie still, then. The doctor will be here in a minute. Can you tell me what happened?
Here in the tunnel, sir. The train going west past us. I heard nothing, but I just felt my leg go. I knew I'd been shot. I dropped the lamp, sir, and oil everywhere. All went up in flames. That's what scared me. Davidson got us out. I suppose I'd be dead otherwise.
You probably saved someone's life tonight, Cran.
How's that, sir?
Well, our man took a shot at you from a train. Shows he was frustrated. He'll have gone by now.
We could have caught him, sir, if we'd signalled ahead to the next station.
Listen, we've rattled him. He took a risk. That may be the turning point.
Sergeant Duane! Sergeant Duane!
When was he discovered?
When the train got into Gower Street at 10:02.
But when was he shot?
The doctor says earlier. Possibly Baker Street.
So he waited. Our man, having shot Constable Cran, travelled up and waited.
Yes, Sergeant.
And what do we know about this poor fellow?
His name is John Stern, a merchant, lived in Jewin Street.
Family?
Yes, sir. Wife and 2 children.
Do they know?
No, sir, I was just going.
I'll go.
Sergeant?
I said I'll go. What's the matter? People deaf round here?
Mary?
Okay.
Careful.
I thought you were Grandad.
Are you all right?
Yes.
You weren't at home. I wanted to speak to you. What are you doing up there?
This is Grandad's statue. What do you think it is under these sheets?
I don't know. A hero?
Grandad wouldn't do a hero.
No. I wanted to see you.
I'm going to Canada.
I'm coming up.
Charles?
I wanted to see you.
You've been busy.
Listen, Mary,
It's too late.
Why?
Why?
The case is nearly finished.
Ah.
I volunteered to be a decoy.
What?
Yes, he's gone for it. He's desperate.
What are you...
Next Tuesday, I'm going to be on the train. We're hoping the killer will strike.
What are you talking about?
We're going to flush the killer from cover.
You're going to risk your life?
Yes.
Why?
I told you. We're going to flush...
Oh, stop talking that newspaper talk.
What's the matter?
You're stupid.
I love you.
Then tell Duane you've changed your mind.
What?
You say you love me. Tell him you're not going through with this stupid boy's game. Tell him you're not available.
Mary?
Please.
What is it?
Tell him.
I can't do that. How can I do that? Mary! I've got you. You nearly fell.
Look.
You pulled the sheet off it.
Look at it. It's an angel.
I began my career in Burma, Charles. Once in a while, we'd be called to a village because a tiger had got the taste of human flesh and had started attacking the villagers. So part of my job as a policeman was to hunt it down and try to kill it. Then I thought, why chase him? Let him come to me. So I used to tether a goat to a tree. I'd be up the tree with my rifle ready, and the goat would be below, bleating. Only once because of the heat and the end of a busy day, I went to sleep. Only for a moment. I got the tiger, but not before the tiger had got the goat. So put this steel plate under your waistcoat, will you?
Mary, I want to say sorry. I've behaved badly. I've spoken harshly of Mr. Lester. Is that what the matter is? Is this any reason to cry? Have I said something? I did not mean to, Mary, please. If you sit there any longer staring, if you insist on not moving, what am I going to do? Nothing. Well, listen, tell me something else, then. Do you intend going out this evening?
Are you all right under there?
Yes. Are you all right?
Yes.
You don't have to do this.
I'm doing it.
Even now, Charles.
I know.
Pull out now if you want.
I don't want.
Listen.
I'm here.
All right.
Don't talk. Please.
Just because a man seeks significant action does not necessarily mean his life is worthless otherwise.
You're not helping me.
Listen, the bravest man I ever knew, a police sergeant, threw himself onto an armed man, saving the lives of his comrades, sacrificing his own life. I went to see his widow with the medals. I did not tell her your husband hated himself beyond reason and wished above all to destroy himself significantly.
What the hell are you talking about?
Charles, we're getting closer to the tunnel.
If I am killed...
For God's sakes, will you stop?
See someone for me, please. Mary Hood.
Listen, Charles, listen to me. I'm sorry I made you do this.
We're entering the tunnel. Have you got the name? Mary Hood?
Brushing the side of the tunnel like flames of gold. He opens the window. Wake up, Mummy. Wake up, Daddy. The angel wants to speak to you. I know. I saw the angel's face. Burning. Burning.
You all right up there, Sergeant?
Yes. Did you never climb on carriages as a kid?
No, Sergeant.
Then I'm sorry for you. Ah, something.
A strap, is it?
Yeah, sort of piece of a strap. Not to keep your trousers up. The sort from a harness. That's how our man got along the carriage.
How is Mr. Lester?
Oh, all right. Bruised like an aubergine. That plate probably saved his life.
I looked through the files. No shootings on the district line, nothing like that.
Nothing at all?
No crimes, I mean.
No accidents? Crashes?
Well, there was the fire 14 years ago. Killed a man and a woman who were trapped in a carriage.
I don't see a connection.
Well, that's all I could find.
No one else in there?
Their daughter, 6 years old.
She died too?
No, survived. Raised the alarm. Too late. Saw her parents burned to death.
Anything else?
She was in hospital for some time after the accident.
Burned, was she?
No, it affected her mind, what she'd seen. In an asylum for a while, then came home. She was the Hood's only child.
Who?
Name of the family. Hood.
Are you all right, young lady? Miss! Not too near the edge! Miss! Miss!
What was she doing?
She was going to jump under a train.
Oh, I've tried to speak to her.
Charles, I need a word with you.
What?
I have good reason to think she's involved in the murders.
What?
Good reason.
Oh, don't.
I need to speak to her.
Mary, that is
She saw her parents die in a fire on a train. It affected her mind. I have to speak to her.
I don't understand.
I'm telling you.
Why should she?
Because I don't know. That's what I'll ask her.
I don't want you to.
Charles, please, listen.
Sergeant, that piece of strap you found.
What?
I got some results on it.
And?
It's from a safety harness. Though not a climber's, they use ropes.
Okay.
But window cleaners use them. Up high. Bridge painters, sculptors.
Charles?
Sculptors?
Yes.
Mary's grandfather is a sculptor.
Yes?
In that fire, it was his son who died.
Grandad was crying. I said, "Grandad, what's the matter?" He said something had hurt him. I said, "Was it the angel?" He said it was the men. It was the men who had not helped Mummy and Daddy, and they must be punished. I said, "But who will punish them? Will it be the angel?" And he said, "Yes, the angel will come on wings of flame, and he will punish them."
Mary! Mary?
Yes, nurse?
Isn't it a lovely day?
Yes.
Well, now, Mary, how are you feeling? There's a gentleman to see you.
Hello, Mary. How are you?
Don't be too long.
I'm very well.
Oh, you look pale.
You're not supposed to say that kind of thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Frankness is not encouraged.
Did you get my letter?
No.
I need to speak to you.
Wait. No, you don't.
What?
He was suffering after my father died.
Yes.
He took me in.
I know.
I had seen dreadful things. I was ill. My thoughts... I couldn't wake from a dream that terrified me. Every night screamed myself awake, and he comforted me. Charles?
Yes. He has killed innocent people. People going home to their wives and children.
It was my suffering that made him do that.
No.
He saw me for years. He couldn't bear it.
I don't think so.
Yes. He was my avenging angel.
You never wanted that.
How do I know what I wanted? We ask for things without actually asking. We have our mouths closed, but we are making demands.
All right. Before, you didn't know, now you do. If we leave him, he will kill someone else. You know that. Mary.
Are you asking me to help you?
Yes.
You're sad?
No.
To say goodbye to a ruined country? Good riddance. What are you thinking?
About when I was a child.
It's past.
If I hadn't been ill after the accident...
Let it pass.
Grandad, you were very good to me.
Of course.
I'm sorry.
You're sorry? For what?
For what I made you do for me.
My dear Mary, I don't know what you're talking about. Is that... down there, you see that man? Isn't that your friend Charles Lester?
No.
In the crowd, no?
I said goodbye to him.
Oh, you told me.
I'm cold.
How are you?
Grandad.
What? Oh, go below. Rest. Did he see you?
Yes.
You're sure?
Yes. Where's Mary?
Why?
I couldn't see her.
You feel all right?
Yes.
Good.
You think he'll come?
I think so.
The door's unlocked?
Yes, and Rich is in the corridor.
Huh. How long do you think we'll have to wait?
How can I know?
I wonder...
Well, wonder by all means, but don't expect an answer.
I'd feel better if I'd seen Mary out there.
She's in her cabin.
You know that?
I don't know it. It's an intelligent guess.
She's an amazing woman.
Yes?
I'm saying the way she reacted when I told her...
You told her?
Well, I'm saying she knew. She already knew.
You spoke about it?
Yes, I spoke about it. What?
What did she say?
She said he was good to her. She cried about it.
She cried?
She said he'd done it because he'd seen how much pain it had caused her. And...
The fire?
The fire, that's right. How much pain it had caused her. Why?
I wonder if she spoke to him. Did she?
About...
Yes.
Maybe she did.
She told him she knew?
I don't know. It's... Oh, no. No! Mary! Open the door! Mary!
Miss Hood, please.
Charles, what do you want?
To come in.
I think you should let us, miss.
All right, but why?
Because I think you're in trouble. Shut the door, please.
What's that?
He's climbing down.
Yes, that's him, all right. The porthole. Don't move. Get down! Hood, this is the police! Drop your weapon!
What are you going to do in Canada?
I haven't decided.
Right.
What are you going to do?
I thought I might stay for a bit, look around, find a job, get married, that kind of thing.
Have you got a job?
The Toronto Star is looking for a theatre critic.
Charles?
Well, the arts are very important, aren't they? I've always said that. Will you marry me?
I don't know.
Oh. May I ask you again?
Yes.
Okay. Will you marry me?
Wait. I used to think that people were behaving strangely to me.
that though when they looked at me they saw a woman, in fact they were mistaken, that I was a child, Charles. I longed to be treated as a child, to have a child's safety. I wanted you to protect me. Do you understand? And I must have asked for that in different ways, in 1,000 different ways. I was a child. Charles?
Yes.
I'm not a child anymore. Now then, I've told you.
Please marry me.
Yes, I will. And I woke up, and the tunnel had gone. It is morning. There are no trains that I can see. I walk along the track. I look down. Along the banks and between the sleepers, small flowers grow. Yellow, white, blue. I breathe deeply, and I climb up the bank. Above me, a sky of broken cloud.
In Death on the District Line by Michael Butt, based on the story A Mystery of the Underground by John Oxenham, Michael Maloney played Charles, Sylvester Latouzel played Mary, and Clive Francis played Sergeant Duane, with Brett Usher as Hood, Timothy Block as Cran, David Bowcombe as Rich, and Anne Beach as Mrs. Gresham. The director was John Taylor.
I don't believe in fate. And I don't trust intuition, unless it follows close observation, the features of the case, the people involved. Then I might try feeling my way through the evidence, never losing sight of the facts.
Hello? Mum? It's me. Are you there? I'm in trouble. Been arrested. I'm in a police station in Oxford. Please help me. They said this is my only chance to use the phone, so I'd better just tell you. I found the bastard. Got a job in his college. I thought it was all going to work out okay, but then something happened. It was just a few days ago. Friday, I think. Friday night. I was working in the college.
Haven't you finished our table yet?
I couldn't find the forks.
Oh, for heaven's sake. What's your name again?
It's Annie.
Right then, Annie. I'll fetch the forks, you put out the glasses, and get a move on. They'll be coming out of chapel in a minute. For God's sake.
Morse, In the Shallows, based on the characters created by Colin Dexter. Story by Alma Cullen, adapted by Richard Stoneman.
Are you awake?
Morse? What?
I thought you'd fallen asleep.
No, I'm listening.
Ah, do you know this piece?
Dr. Hingley, will you be quiet?
Sorry. Dear, naughty me.
Shh.
No, they were very good. I'm not saying...
But not as good as Christchurch. Is that what you think?
It's subjective, of course.
Well, of course, Morse. De gustibus non est disputandum. Or perhaps you've forgotten.
Concerning taste, there can be no dispute. Yes, I remember.
be no dispute concerning the food tonight. It'll be delicious.
It's kind of you to invite me.
Don't be silly. You're only here so I can beat you at chess and go to bed feeling smug.
Don't you always go to bed feeling smug?
Now, why does that sound like you're criticising?
It wasn't.
No, you think I've got it easy, living this privileged existence, swanning around this beautiful quad...
Jessica, honestly, I wasn't trying to say anything.
I know exactly what you're trying to say, Morse. And you've managed to say it with crystal clarity. Now stop frowning and let's have a drink before we go through.
I'm told they'll be ready for us in 2 minutes, Master. So may I suggest we all drain our Finos and Amonteados?
Yes, thank you, Anthony.
I'll start to chivvy the masses. I see you're not wearing a gown, Mr.
Morse, and it's Chief Inspector, not Mr.
Our policeman.
Anthony Yateman is our admissions tutor, Morse. I'm afraid he's a stickler for detail when it comes to things like gowns.
I'm not going to apologise for trying to maintain the traditions of our college.
Well, I didn't actually graduate from this or any other college, so I don't have a gown.
Yes, really, Jessica. The guests you invite to our feasts...
I do know how to hold a knife and fork, if that's what you're worried about.
Well, it's more the level of conversation that concerns me. The master likes to maintain a certain standard of intellectual discourse.
I'll do my very best to understand what you're saying. I might even try to join in, if that's all right with you, Mr. Yateman.
I doubt we'll be talking about anything that might interest a police officer. We rarely discuss football. Darts. Ready when you are, Master.
Yes, yes, very good, Anthony.
Oh, I'm so sorry. He's such an unbearable snob.
Oh, don't worry. I've come across far worse. Now, can you just remind me, do I hold the knife in my right hand or my left?
Nutriti tibi debitum obsequium praestare valiamus per Christum Dominum nostrum.
What the hell are you doing, girl?
I'm serving the bread, sir.
You offer the basket. You don't just drop a roll on my plate.
I was only trying...
Gods, has no one told you how to do your job?
I'm sorry. Very sorry, sir.
Tears before the first course. That's good going, even for Yateman.
If there's one thing I hate more than a snob, it's a bully.
You come with me, dear. You can serve the undergrads. I'll look after the dolls.
I didn't think I was doing anything wrong.
Of course you didn't, dear. Now, you just make sure there's plenty of wine for the young ladies and gents, and if they start to throw their food around, you keep your head down.
See if she can catch it like a seal.
Gregson, for God's sake, Gregors, pass the bloody bottle before I die of thirst.
Will you look at the state of that slop? Coming in now with a beard. Spitting image of Jesus.
Wearing jeans on a feast night. And he's late, Mr. Bloody Benedictus.
Earned himself a sconcing.
Absolutely.
Gregors, do a quick note and take it up to high table.
Yeah.
Oh, why can't you do it, Hansworth?
Because I can't remember the Latin. And you know what Yateman's like. One tiny mistake and he'll send it back.
Give me a bloody pen, then.
Here's your bloody pen.
All right, what am I writing?
I have to say, this wine's delicious.
Pace yourself. There's a different vintage with every course.
Port and brandy to follow.
Certainly.
I've often wondered why your fellows don't all end up as alcoholics.
Lots of them do. The rest just go mad. Or they're mad to begin with. Don't, whatever you do, get into conversation with the man sitting opposite the master. He's a theoretical physicist, might win a Nobel Prize this year, might be sectioned. Either way, he can't actually communicate with human beings.
And yet, he's supposed to teach undergraduates.
Oh, no, they don't let him near the students. He just does incomprehensible research and publishes unintelligible articles twice a year.
Do you think he realises that half his starter just went down the front of his shirt?
I'm sure he neither knows nor cares.
Magistry, rogo poena!
I thought we were stopping this nonsense. Oh, but Master, it's such a vital piece of our collegiate history.
What's going on?
It seems that someone's broken the rules. Those two hearties want him sconced.
Want him what?
Didn't you have it at Lonsdale? That silver tankard in the middle of the table, they fill it with whiskey, wine and beer. The victim has to drink it all without moving the tankard away from his lips.
Sounds unpleasant, not to say dangerous.
There's always a lot of vomit, which is why the master has tried to stop this glorious tradition. Yeatman, unfortunately, wants to keep it going, which is why he's signing off the Latin scripts here as we speak.
Sunt, Gregson? If you really must continue with this foolishness, take it outside, will you?
Yes, Master. Grab the tankard, Gregors.
And
some whiskey, I should think.
Who's the sconce?
Evans, Master.
David Evans? Then no, this can't happen.
Too late, I think.
Go and stop it, Anthony, now.
As you wish, Master.
I say, Mr. Unsworth, hang on a moment, will you? Get off me! What do you think you're doing? Stand up, horrid little creep. I have in my hands a piece of paper. Let go!
You should always turn up on time for college feasts.
Now you're going to be scomped.
Oh, I'm sorry, chaps. The master's had a change of heart.
This man was late.
I know, but you can't sconce him in hall.
Oh!
Just take him outside, will you, so the master doesn't see him.
What's going on? You okay, David?
Why don't you keep your long and misshapen nose out of this?
Why don't you sit down before I knock you down?
Hey, that's not how we talk in hall.
I've got the Magnavitrum.
We fill this cup with wine, he drinks it.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't drink wine.
Well, he does tonight.
I'm telling you, that's not going to happen.
How do you think you are, you shut roll?
Get
out of our way!
I wonder if you should step in and arrest someone, Morse. Preferably the blonde boy, Unsworth, who's quite the most stupid undergrad I've ever tried to teach.
I'm off duty and I can't see anyone breaking the law.
They are being very aggressive.
If you're worried, call a bulldog. And could you top me up, please? This Chablis really is exceptional.
I'll set up the board. Can you find a bottle of something over there, by the window?
Oh, you still have some Talisker. Excellent. The master seemed upset. I tried to say goodnight.
Oh, he didn't like all the business with the Hearties and that poor little chap, Evans. David Evans. He's from Glasgow, completely out of his depth here.
Do you teach him?
No, but I've heard stories. The beard makes him look older, but he's only just turned 18, and I always think undergrads should take a year off, travel the world before they come up to Oxford.
Not everyone can afford a year off.
There are plenty of red brick universities that are perfect for impoverished, immature young students.
Careful, Jessica. You're beginning to sound elitist.
I'm going to apologise for that. Pick a hand. Let's see what colour you are.
Left.
Black. Bad luck.
I didn't travel before I went up to Lonsdale.
Did you feel unprepared for Oxford?
No.
Never told me why you left before your finals.
No.
I think you'd have made a very good Don.
Me?
Oh, well, it's a wonderful life.
I'd rather do something useful.
Ouch.
I meant practical.
No, you didn't.
If you're happy here, great, but I need more of a challenge than trying to get students to understand Plato.
Actually, it's getting them to read Plato that's the challenge. I may have to leave this college.
Why?
If I can't get an associate professorship, they'll want me out by the end of Trinity term.
And if you do get an associate professorship?
Then I can move to better rooms, carry on enjoying the fabulous food, wonderful wines.
Crazy colleagues.
Well, at least they're interesting. Can you say that of any of the people you work with?
Some of them.
I'm seeing the master tomorrow. If he approves, I'll be allowed to present myself to the college committee in a couple of weeks. But I'm up against research fellows with more experience, more published articles, more prizes.
Does it help that you're a woman?
Oh, when does it ever help that I'm a woman?
What's going on?
What can you see?
I think it's the Hearties from the feast. I recognise the one with the blonde hair. Unsworth, was it?
Oh, God, they'll be off to the boathouse, I expect.
Why the boathouse?
They're all members of the college rowing crew. They like to take a boat out in the middle of the night and push each other into the river.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
They always survive, sadly. Oh, are we going to finish this game? I think I'll have you this time.
Maybe. Maybe not. Another drink?
Are you trying to get me drunk, Morse?
Yes. How am I doing?
I worked really hard, Mum. You'd have laughed if you'd seen me. I didn't finish till 1 o'clock in the morning. Then I went to look for the bastard, but he wasn't in his room. So I thought I'd just wait another day. I thought there was plenty of time.
Where the hell have you been, Morse? Don't bother getting out of your car.
Good morning to you, sir.
Dead body. Possible murder. I was on my way to join Lewis in your absence.
I'm sorry if I'm a few minutes late.
You look terrible, Morse.
I was playing chess for most of the night.
Playing chess? A euphemism for on the piss.
I ended up analysing the logic of Wittgenstein.
Was that another euphemism?
Ludwig Wittgenstein, Austrian philosopher, wrote the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. I expect you're familiar with his work.
You'll be wanting to know where the body is.
Yes, sir.
Boathouses Walk. Male, 50-something, face down in the river, lying in the shallows.
Lovely.
Can you move those people right away from the scene, Constable?
Sarge.
And put some more tape round the trees. All the way to the gate over there.
Yes, Sarge.
Oh, morning, sir.
Morning.
I thought Superintendent Strange was on his way.
No, you have the joy of my company, Lewis.
That is a joy, sir. You feeling okay? You look a bit...
Never mind how I'm feeling. Where's the man who's no longer feeling anything?
The corpse.
Oh, over here, sir. If you want to take a look.
Of course I don't want to take a look. Are there any wounds? Any blood?
Nothing I could see, sir. Just a drowning, I reckon.
What's the pathologist say?
We haven't had one yet. Dr. Russell was supposed to turn up half an hour ago. Still waiting.
I'd better see for myself, then.
Just keep to your right, here. There's a few footprints in the mud, but they could be from the bloke who found the body.
The bloke?
Dog walker. It's always a dog walker, isn't it?
Did he touch the body?
Pulled it down to the water. Said the head was in the river face down. He could tell he was dead, so he didn't bother with a kiss of life. Just went to find a call box. Here he is, sir. Shall I move the blanket?
I suppose so.
Brace yourself.
Yateman.
Sorry?
I met this man last night. Anthony Yateman. He's a don at St. Joseph's.
That's right. We found his wallet. Had his library card, credit
Why
card.
didn't you tell me?
About the wallet?
That you knew his name.
I was getting round to that.
Anything else you haven't told me?
There are tyre tracks up by the boathouses. Someone was driving round this area last night.
Could the body, Yateman, could he have been pushed from a boat into the river, washed up over here?
Doubt it, sir. His shoes are dry, and his socks and trousers. Most likely, he either tripped and fell headfirst into the river, or
Someone held his head under the water until he was dead.
We'll have to wait to see what Dr. Russell says.
Yes. Have you looked inside the boathouse?
I wish one, sir. There's about 10 of them. Merton, Brasenose,
The St. Joseph's boathouse, Lewis. Obviously.
thanks in here.
Careful, Lewis.
Looks like someone's at a party. Half a dozen empties. Paul Roger. Is that the good stuff?
Paul Roger. It's certainly expensive.
Oh, puddle of sick. And what's this? Blood?
Where?
There, sir. Oh, just a few drops, maybe.
Have it checked. Hello?
Sir?
What would you say about this, Lewis?
Oh, I don't know. Looks like fur or hair, is it?
I think someone's had a shave, Lewis. This used to be a beard.
You're being very mysterious, Chief Inspector.
Not really, Master. I just didn't want to talk in front of the porter.
But now we're alone, you can speak freely? Oh, please don't sit there, Sergeant.
Sorry?
That chair is for decoration only. It's a medieval Italian throne.
It's very nice.
Nice? Yes, I suppose it is.
We can stand, Lewis. We won't be here very long. I just thought, as a courtesy, I should inform you that the body of Anthony Yateman was found this morning near the college boathouse.
Mr. Yateman's dead?
Yes, I rather think that was implied by the use of the term the body. How did he die?
We're waiting for the post-mortem.
But your best guess would be...
I never guess, sir.
How about you, Sergeant?
Oh,
Sergeant Lewis is also waiting for the post-mortem. In the meantime, we'd like to have a look in Mr. Yateman's rooms. And do you know who the next of kin might be?
I fear I know very little about Mr. Anthony Yateman. He was loud, abrasive, opinionated, but his personal life was very private.
So you wouldn't call him a friend?
I didn't actually like the man. Is that a terrible thing to say when the body isn't even cold? At least I assume it isn't cold. When did he die?
We can't be sure until the pathologist tells us. When did he leave the hall?
I saw him drinking in the senior common room just after midnight, which is when I went to bed.
Who was he with, sir?
No one, as far as I remember. He was pouring himself a large brandy, but not actually talking to any of the dons. He preferred the company of undergraduates.
Isn't that rather unusual?
I'm afraid poor Yateman never really grew up. He loved his time as a student here, and he couldn't even think about working anywhere else. Oh, look at the time. I really have to go. The porters will give you the relevant keys.
You understand, if this turns out to be a murder inquiry, we will have to talk to you again, and to most of the college.
So it's not a murder inquiry just yet?
Nope.
But you think it will be?
I'll let you know, Master.
There's something about clever people that makes me behave like I'm stupid, even though I'm not.
No, of course you're not.
Morse? Morse?
Good morning. How are you feeling?
Never mind me, I just heard about Yateman. Hello, we haven't met. I'm Jessica Hinckley.
Detective Sergeant Lewis. You two know each other?
Oh, yes, we...
Dr. Hinckley and I met at the Oxford Chess Club. Who told you about Yateman?
I was supposed to be seeing the master this morning. He just rang to cancel. I asked why, and he told me what happened.
We don't actually know what happened.
An accident?
Possibly.
There's anything I can do.
Why don't you come with us to Yateman's rooms? We're just getting the keys.
Quite a fuss when he got these rooms. You'll see the view from his study and the size of his bedroom.
But he was quite senior, wasn't he?
He pushed very hard to get the admissions job, which is really just a load of admin. But there are quite a few dons with a greater claim to this staircase.
Did he have enemies in college?
Well, show me a fellow who doesn't have enemies in college.
I got a sense from the master that Yateman was rather unlikable.
I told you he was a dreadful snob. He banged on and on about college traditions, but really, he just wanted to fill the place with boys from the right schools. He was dead against having girls from anywhere. He hated being forced to take students from grammar schools, let alone comprehensives.
And this is where he lived? No other property in town or out of town?
slept here, he ate in hall every night, ate in the buttery every lunchtime. He liked to drink beer with the hearties, pretend he was still an undergrad. Sad, really. What are you looking for?
Just seeing if anything jumps out.
Something like this, sir.
What have you got?
Photographs. A young man with a beard.
Show me. Oh. Now, this, if I'm not mistaken, is the chap who got into trouble at the feast. Am I right?
Yes. That's David Evans. Why would Yateman have photos of him?
Coming out of college, crossing St Giles, going into Blackwell's.
All of them snapped without Evans being aware, judging by the fact he's not posing, and they're all a bit blurred. Was Yateman a keen photographer?
I never saw him with a camera.
Do you want me to take the place apart, sir?
Not yet, Lewis. For now, let's just have a quiet word with this David Evans. Does he have rooms in college?
I think so. But you'd have to ask the porters. Honestly, I know virtually nothing about the boy.
You won't say anything to anyone about these photos?
Of course not, Morse. You can trust me.
To be honest, I was a bit surprised you let her come with us. In the victim's room. She might turn out to be a suspect.
I was with Dr. Hinckley till 3 o'clock this morning.
Oh, yeah?
We were talking, Lewis, discussing Wittgenstein.
If you say so, sir.
We had a few drinks. When I left, Dr. Hinckley was barely able to stand, let alone drown a man in the charwell. And we still don't know if Yateman was drowned. When's the post-mortem?
About 4 o'clock.
You won't need me then.
If you've got something better to do.
I'm sure I'll find something.
She's an attractive woman.
Is she?
You're not saying you hadn't noticed.
I'm not saying anything, Lewis. Mr. Evans! Mr. Evans, it's the police. Can you open the door, please?
Yes.
I'm Chief Inspector Morse, Thames Valley Police.
Detective Sergeant
I was
Lewis.
hoping for a word with David Evans.
Sorry.
Sorry that he's not here, or sorry that you're not going to let us in?
Bit of both, mate.
Let's get this clear. I am not your mate, and if you
We just want
don't
to
let
ask
us
Mr. Evans a couple of questions, then we'll be on our way. He's not in any trouble.
Come on, Vic, let's sort this out. I'm David Evans, what do you want?
What happened to your face?
I caught myself shaving.
You shaved off your own beard?
Yes.
Using a very blunt razor, by the looks of it. I mean, you do seem to have made a bit of a mess.
No law against that, mate. And I am reading jurisprudence, so I know that's true.
Your face isn't in perfect condition either, Mr...
Nelson.
Have you been assaulted, Mr. Nelson?
No.
No one hit you? I'm just wondering why your cheek appears to be bruised.
It isn't.
No?
No.
Well, why don't we leave it there? Come on, Lewis.
Oh, but sir,
These gentlemen have essays to write, I'm sure. Thank you for your time, Mr. Evans, Mr. Nelson.
Sir, you didn't ask
Leave
me.
it, Lewis.
Why did they come here?
God knows.
Yes, Lewis, I realise it was Evans who had his beard shaved off in the college boathouse, but he wasn't going to admit it, was he?
No,
And there was no point trying to make either of those two tell us anything when they were both so hostile.
I didn't like the older bloke. Bolshy bugger.
Find out what you can about both men.
Nelson, was it?
Vic Nelson, David Evans. Before you do anything, let's be certain we're dealing with a murder. Go to the post-mortem and report back to me as soon as you can.
Where are you off to, sir?
HQ. Some urgent paperwork.
Oh, urgent, is it?
Yes, Lewis. Vital. My compliments to Dr. Russell.
Morse, how can you sleep through that din?
I'm not asleep, sir. Thinking.
Can you turn it off, matey?
I just got off the phone. Do you want to know who I was talking to?
I assumed you were about to tell me, sir.
The Deputy Chief Constable, Peter Welbeck, QPM, though quite why he got that medal is anyone's guess.
Yes, sir.
After 10 minutes of small talk, golf, rugby, lodge business, he got to the point of the call.
Oh, good.
Anthony Yateman.
What about him?
He's the dead man found in the shallows.
That's right.
Murdered?
I'm about to be told by Sergeant Lewis, sir.
According to the Deputy Chief Constable, it was a tragic accident.
I don't understand.
Well, the DCC wants you to treat this as an accidental death, or a suicide if you have to, but not, repeat, not a murder.
Even if it is?
Especially if it is.
I see. Or rather, I don't.
Someone's putting pressure on the Chief Constable, who's putting pressure on the DCC, who's putting pressure on me to make this crime, if it is a crime, disappear.
And now you're putting pressure on me, sir?
No, Morse. I don't like being told what to do. I want you to find out what actually happened.
You'd like me to approach the death with an open mind and investigate it to the best of my ability.
Exactly.
Which I would have done anyway had you not told me about the phone call.
Yes.
Which begs the question, why tell me about the phone call?
Just do your job, Morse. Pretend I wasn't here.
I always do, sir. Ah, Lewis. Mine's a pint of Breakspear. This one's nearly finished.
Sorry, sir. Not got time for a drink. Val's out tonight. Tupperware. And I promised I'd be back by 6:30.
Tupperware?
Well, she goes out to her friend's house. There's a few other women there. They have some drinks.
Actually, Lewis, I really don't care. Tell me about the post-mortem.
Oh, OK, then. All this to come in Dr. Russell's formal report, but basically...
Oh, don't say basically if you mean to summarise.
To summarise? Cause of death was drowning. There are some faint marks on Yateman's neck and head which could indicate foul play, but it's too inconclusive to point to a definite murder. Yateman's blood alcohol level was 3 times the drink-drive limit, so he might have just collapsed and passed out.
With his face underwater?
Possibly.
Any bruising to his hands, his knuckles?
Nope.
No. So he didn't punch anyone in the face before he drowned?
Someone like Vic Nelson.
The Bolshie bugger, yes.
Yateman's hands were unblemished, according to Dr. Russell, but his trousers were damaged.
Damaged? In what way?
All the buttons on his flies had been ripped off.
Are we talking about a sexual assault?
No sign of anything like that, sir, but Dr. Russell noticed the missing buttons and thought you'd like to know.
But she thinks most likely just an accident.
She's got no reason to think otherwise.
Pity.
I'd better head off, sir, if that's okay with you. I'll see you tomorrow, then.
Yes. Oh, just one thing, Lewis.
Sir?
Can you tell them to turn the music off?
I wish you were here, Mum. I keep thinking, was it my fault? But I did my best. Trouble was, he was never in his room. I looked for him everywhere. I thought maybe he'd guessed who I was, but I couldn't give up. Not till it was over.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
What's this?
Till Eulenspiegel by Richard Strauss, a tone
No,
poem.
I'm sitting on something. Empty bottle?
Just chuck it on the back seat and put your belt on, Lewis. Looking forward to another day in academia?
Not really.
Why not? Chance to interrogate some of the finest minds in Oxford, ergo, some of the finest minds in the world.
That'll be too posh for me, sir.
Too posh, please. Don't equate intelligence with class, Lewis.
They make me feel uncomfortable, all them dons and professors.
You may not be as bright as some of the fellows, but you have every right to ask anyone whatever questions spring to mind.
I'd rather stick to the porters and the scouts. To be honest, I find them more interesting.
I've been the head porter for 15 years now. I tell a lie. It's 14 years. It'll be 15 years on January the 5th. Started off as a night porter, 2 years doing that, then I moved up to the...
Can I ask you some questions about Mr. Yateman?
Mr. Yateman?
You heard he, passed away.
Oh, yes. We porters hear about everything. We've always got our fingers on the pulse, especially when it comes to anyone who's dead.
I've never had to deal with the sudden death of a colleague before, Chief Inspector. Milk and sugar?
Yes, please. 2 sugars. Do you think anyone in college would have wanted to kill Anthony Yateman?
No.
But he was unpopular.
Was he?
Well, you said you didn't like him.
I hardly think my individual attitude defines his overall level of popularity.
You also said he preferred the company of undergraduates to that of the other dons.
Did I?
Can you point me towards anyone in college who Yateman might have called a friend?
I'm afraid I can't.
Because he had no friends, or because you don't know?
The latter.
I see. What can you tell me about a student called David Evans?
I can tell you I've never heard of him.
Really? He's a member of your college?
There are nearly 600 undergraduates enrolled at St. Joseph's, Chief Inspector. You can't possibly expect me to know all of them. I doubt I've even met this David Evans. If you want me to find out something specific, I could ask my secretary to make inquiries, but I really am far too busy to get involved any further with this investigation of yours. Now, if you finish your coffee...
According to the Deputy Chief Constable, it was a tragic accident.
I don't understand.
Well, the DCC wants you to treat this as an accidental death. Or a suicide if you have to, but not, repeat, not a murder.
Even if it is?
Especially if it is.
I see.
Who's this gone to see?
Evans, Master.
David Evans. Then no, this can't happen.
Too late, I think.
Go and stop it, Anthony.
What can you tell me about a student called David Evans?
I can tell you I've never heard of him.
Really? He's a member of your college?
I doubt I've even met this David Evans.
David Evans? Little shit.
Why'd you say that?
I clean up after students. I've cleaned up after students long as I can remember, and I never complain.
That's true, even when she found...
But I'm not going to pretend there's some young men who shouldn't be here. Some just don't know how to behave. And David Evans, one of the worst.
In what way?
The way he talks to me. When he talks to me.
You could say he was shy, but I just call him ignorant.
And the bloke he lives with's no better.
No, Mr. Nelson.
Nelson looks after Evans like he's a child. But he never tells him to wash up or clean the lavatory. Oh, state of it sometimes. Disgusting.
He's a very rude man, that Mr. Nelson.
A very rude man. Gave me a mouthful last week when I found that girl outside their door.
What girl?
One of the catering staff. Is it Alice? No, Annie.
No. And she was outside their door?
Waiting for Evans at the bottom of his staircase. She was crying. I asked her why. She said Nelson wouldn't let her inside.
It's not for me to pry or gossip, but there's something suspicious going on with them three.
According to the Deputy Chief Constable, it was a tragic accident.
I don't understand.
Well, the DCC wants you to treat this as an accidental death. Or a suicide if you have to, but not, repeat, not a murder.
Even if it is?
Especially if it is.
I see.
Let it run. Big effort, last 10.
Constable, Why are these students traipsing all over my crime scene? Where's the tape gone?
Sorry, sir. I was told the investigation's over.
It is not over. Not until I tell you.
You know you're in the way.
I beg your pardon?
We're about to launch our boat, and you are going to get knocked over unless you shift yourself.
Constable, did you allow these students into the boathouse?
Well, the duty inspector told me to open it up. Are you going to move? We're late for training.
There will be no training, not today.
Oh, come off it.
A man was killed here last night. I'm still looking for evidence.
Oh, you're a copper too, are you?
I'm a chief inspector. And you are?
I am an undergraduate.
I meant, what's your name?
Unsworth. UNS.
What's the hold-up, Eddie?
Sorry, Greg, as these plods are being a little obstructive.
Tell them to piss off.
I wouldn't recommend that, sir. Constable, close the boathouse door, make sure it's locked.
Yes, sir. Now, look here.
No, Mr. Unsworth, I will not look here, and you will not take a boat out on the river. Instead, you will return to your college, where I will interview you and the rest of your crew about your movements last night.
My movements?
You were seen leaving the college just after midnight. Did you come here?
I'm not really sure what I did last night.
Little bit drunk, Eddie was.
Did you come here, Mr...
Gregson. I honestly can't remember. Bit drunk as well. We all were. Can't even remember who was driving the van.
Oh, don't say that, you idiot.
The minibus, over there, does it belong to the college?
If you look very closely, you'll see it's got the St. Joseph's crest on both sides.
Bit of a clue, Inspector.
Constable.
Sir?
We're impounding that minibus.
Where you are, sir?
Hang on a minute. We need the van to drop everyone off after training.
As I just explained, there will be no training today, and you can walk back to your rooms. Now, you said someone drove the minibus here last night.
No, I said I can't remember what happened last night.
There were tyre marks in the mud over there. It'll be easy to check if that particular vehicle was here or not.
Then why do you need to take it away?
I want a good look inside. Was Mr. Yateman with you last night?
No idea.
What about David Evans?
Who?
He's an undergraduate at St. Joseph's. You tried to make him drink from a large tankard in Hall.
Oh, the chap who turned up late.
In jeans.
With a beard.
Yeah, he doesn't have a beard anymore.
Doesn't he?
Are you responsible for forcibly shaving off his beard? We know it happened in the boathouse. Was it you and the rest of the crew, Mr. Unsworth?
I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say this, but I really can't remember a thing about last night, Inspector.
Same here.
I wonder if your memories might improve if I interviewed you at police headquarters.
If you're threatening to arrest us, you better have extremely good grounds for detention.
Eddie's father is a High Court judge, do you see?
He'd eat you for breakfast.
So do be careful.
All locked up, sir. Did you want me to drive the minibus away now?
No.
Very sensible.
Put out a call on your radio, get someone else down here to do the driving. You watch the boathouse, no one goes in or out.
Yes, sir.
Who's got the keys to the minibus?
The keys?
And before you tell me you don't know, I should warn you that everyone present will be strip searched unless the keys are handed to this officer within the next 60 seconds. Clear?
I suppose so, Inspector.
Non-relinquit locum.
Listening to Beethoven, Lewis?
Oh, hello, sir. I didn't like to change the channel just in case it was important.
Well, I'm not sure it matters which station Yateman's wireless was tuned to. Anything interesting in his paperwork?
Lots of files on students, all their A-level results, reports about their interviews, and he kept a diary. But some of it's written in Latin or Greek.
Show me. Non-relinquit locum. He never leaves his room. Et ipse est in nullo. He spoke to no one.
He? Who's that then?
I'll need some time to translate the rest of this.
If you want a dictionary, there's probably one here.
I think I'll manage without, Lewis.
I was looking for files on Evans and Nelson, but there's nothing on either one of them.
Well, they're both in their first term. Is there a separate filing cabinet for new undergrads?
Not that I can see. There's students from every year in the cabinet by the door, alphabetical order, but no Evans or Nelson.
Yes?
Mr. Yateman?
No. Who are you?
Quentin Spencer. I have an appointment with Anthony Yateman. I'm afraid I'm a little late.
Not as late as Mr. Yateman. He's dead.
What?
He drowned in the Charwell last night. Why have you come to see him?
I'm sure why on earth I should tell you. I don't even know who you are.
I'm a police officer, Chief Inspector Morse, so I think you should tell me, sir.
Do you mind if I sit down? It's all a bit of a shock.
Why don't you go outside, get some fresh air?
But not before you've told us why you're here.
Yes, okay. I'm a journalist. Yateman said he got a story, but he'd only talk to me face to face. Are you sure I can't sit down?
You look as if you could do with a drink. Lewis, stay here and find those files I mentioned. Mr. Spencer and I will be in the pub.
Which one, sir? In case I need you.
The King's Head. Come along, Mr. Spencer. They'll be open by the time we get there.
Oh, thanks very much.
Quite sure you want lager?
I've never been fond of real ale.
Your loss. Cheers. You said you're a journalist.
Freelance. Based in London. Yateman telephoned last week. Said I definitely want to write something about a scandal at the college, and we arranged to meet today.
A scandal? Did he give you any clues?
None. But he knows the sort of things I write about.
Which are?
Stories to make the retired colonels who read the Mail and the Telegraph choke on their cornflakes.
And why you? Was Yateman a fan of your work?
He told me he agreed with my point of view on immigration, law and order, crime and punishment.
And he wanted to tell you about something going on here, in his college.
He promised me I'd find it interesting. Do you think it was murdered?
I have no idea.
Am I in any danger myself?
Your guess is as good as mine, Mr. Spencer.
It's not very reassuring.
No, I suppose it is. Are you sure he didn't give you any hints about this scandal?
If I knew anything, Inspector, I promise I'd tell you.
Really? So, what now? Back to London?
Actually, I think I'll hang around Oxford. See if I can dig something up even without Yateman's help.
I can't let you back into his rooms.
But you'll tip me the wink if you find out exactly how he died, won't you?
I never tip anyone the wink, Mr. Spencer.
Right. Sip again?
Why not?
I looked for him everywhere. I thought maybe he'd guessed who I was, but I couldn't give up. Not till it was over.
David! David, are you in there?
For God's sake, just stop doing that, will you?
I want to see David.
He's not here.
Yes, he is.
You calling me a liar?
I heard him talking when I came up the stairs.
I was listening to the radio.
Just let me in.
No! I'm telling you, David's not here and I'm trying to work, so off you go, little girl.
David! David!
If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the Porter's Lodge.
What is your problem? Why are you doing this?
You could have let her in.
You're not seeing anyone looking like that.
No one's going to recognise me.
I'm not taking the risk.
I'd be the one taking the risk.
It's my job on the line. I'm not chucking that away just so you can get your rocks off with a waitress.
What are you going to do? Lock me in my room?
If I have to, yes.
Oh, come on, Vic.
No, you come on, David. Do as you're told, or I will report you.
Get me moved back to Scotland.
Maybe.
But then they'll move you on as well, and you wouldn't want that. So, actually, you're not going to report me for anything, are you?
While you were enjoying yourself in the pub...
I was working, Lewis.
I went through every drawer, every file, and there was nothing on Evans or Nelson.
Did you notice something odd about the older one, Nelson? Something familiar?
What, like you've met him before?
No, but his manner, his attitude. He was behaving like a policeman.
You reckon he's a copper?
Morse!
Oh, I think the super wants a word.
Oh, God.
Maybe don't breathe over him, sir. Not until you've had a couple of minutes. Afternoon, sir. Are you looking for us?
I've been summoned, Lewis. Summoned to the Chief Constable's office.
Is this to do with the late Mr. Yateman?
It's to do with the journalist who doorstepped the Master of St. Joseph's straight after lunch and demanded a quote about the assassination of one of his dons. I don't suppose you know anything about this journalist?
News to me, sir.
Lewis?
I haven't spoken to the press myself, sir.
Well, keep it that way. And wish me luck.
Good luck, sir.
But I thought you might have some influence with the Chief Inspector.
I'm not sure anyone has any influence with Morse. He's very much his own man.
Is there nothing you can say to make him wrap up his investigation?
Would you like some more wine, sir?
What? Oh, yes, just a little. No, don't pick up my glass. Honestly, the staff we employ these days.
The trouble is, Master, if there is a murderer out there, Morse won't stop until he's found him.
Stupid!
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes,
sorry.
sorry.
It's just an accident.
Fetch clean that. No, in fact, get a towel, will you?
Sorry, I really am sorry.
It's all right.
David, it's me, David!
Annie, what's wrong?
Please, let me in.
What's happened?
I've got to talk to you.
If Vic finds you, then...
Where's he gone?
To fetch some food.
Then let me in, quickly.
I thought I told you to stay away from here. Can't you see the girl's upset?
I don't care.
Oh, give us a break. I just need to talk to him.
You're not listening. I'm telling you to piss off. Now!
For Christ's sake, Vic, she's hot.
Leave her, she's fine.
There was no need for you to do that.
Back inside. Move it!
Well then, Annie. Hey, this is getting to be a bit of a habit, don't you think?
Leave me alone.
Well, I would do, my love, but I don't like to see the catering staff glubbing in the college. Doesn't look too good, does it?
I don't care how it looks.
Yeah, maybe you don't. I'm the one who gets it in the neck if standards start slipping. The master wants a happy ship. You don't look too happy to me.
Please, just go.
Not till you tell me what's happened. Why are you crying?
It's none of your business.
Oh, you know your knee's bleeding. Did you fall down the stairs?
No.
You did, didn't you? Someone push you?
No.
Annie.
No one pushed me.
I can call the police.
Don't call the police.
It's no trouble.
Do not call the police.
All right. I get the message. Come on. Get you up. Who are you seeing up there? Was it Mr. Evans? Mr. Nelson?
Nelson's a nutter.
I'm not a fan myself. Not sure I...
He's a psycho.
Did he hurt you?
He pushed me down the stairs.
Well, that's not on. I'll go and have a word.
No.
What if he assaulted you?
I don't want you to do anything.
I can't have my undergraduates hurting members of my catering staff. They have to pay a hefty fine if they want to do that sort of thing, eh?
He'll get what's coming to him. One of these days.
Will he, though?
I'll make sure he does.
He is a queer one, that Mr. Nelson. Don't you think?
How do you mean?
The way he speaks to Mr. Evans, he's not his dad, but he talks like he is. Unless there's something else going on.
Something else?
Well, you know. Maybe you don't. You're very young. Very innocent.
Is that what you think?
Come on, my love. I'll walk you home. Where are you staying?
None of your business.
Is it the college dorm?
Why are you asking all these questions?
I'm trying to help.
Don't bother. Just leave me alone.
I will leave you alone if that's what you want. Oh, good evening, Dr. Hinckley. Dr. Hinckley! You miserable cow.
Sorry to get you out so late, Morse.
Don't be silly. Happy to see you at any time. Sit over here. Excuse us. Thank you. Cheers.
Yes.
You okay? Something happened with the professorship?
Not yet. Can you stop looking into the Yateman business? Just close the file. Let it go.
Now, why on earth would you ask me to do something like that?
You'd be helping me.
and I'd be very grateful.
Has someone been talking to you? Was it the master?
He said he'd look more favourably on my application if I managed to steer you away from any embarrassing conclusions. The other night, you made it pretty clear where you hoped our friendship was going. Don't just tell me you have feelings. Prove it. What? Say something.
Last orders, please. Last orders, ladies and gentlemen. Last orders.
It was all going wrong, Mum. There was this dead professor, and the police were trying to find out who killed him. I could have told them, but then I'd have missed my chance to get the bastard myself. So I kept quiet, and I waited. One more day, I thought. One more day.
Hey, Stuart! Can you stop that? I'm getting gassed over here.
Sorry, Sarge!
Right, Lewis, what have you got?
Oh, morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Tell me about the minibus.
Well, these tyres definitely made the tracks by the boathouse, so this vehicle was driven near where Yateman's body was found.
Any evidence of Yateman being in the back of the minibus, either before or after he died?
There was nothing much inside the vehicle.
Any beard clippings?
Nope.
No. Blood?
Don't think so.
Well, what did the forensic chaps have to say?
That's the problem, sir. We weren't allowed any forensic chaps.
What?
According to the duty inspector, he's been told not to assign any support services for anything to do with this case.
On the authority of whom?
The chief constable.
So, it's just you and me, is it?
Pretty much, sir. And I think we're going to be told to wrap things up any minute now.
Not yet, Lewis. What did you find in the back of the minibus without the help of any support services?
Apart from an empty bottle of champagne and a bit of mud, there was nothing.
A bit of mud?
It looked like there'd been quite a few passengers with muddy boots, but it was used yesterday morning to take the rowers from the college to the boathouse. So we can't tell exactly who was in it the night Yateman died.
Well, let's assume the undergrads I saw in St. Joseph's Quad all piled into the minibus and drove out to the river that night. Did Yateman go with them? Was David Evans on board?
Well, you tell me, sir. You saw the students.
It was dark. I couldn't make them out from where I was watching.
And you'd had a few drinks?
That's immaterial, Lewis. The point is, we need to get the truth from the rowers. Who was in the boathouse that night? How did Yateman end up with his face in the river?
Shall I give him back the minibus?
No. No, let's keep it for a few days. Do them good to walk.
Right you are, sir. Oh, by the way, I rang up the personnel department, asked if there was an officer called Vic Nelson working for Thames Valley.
And?
It took them a while to check. They kept transferring me to different people. Then they said they'd ring me back. Anyway, eventually, they told me they'd never heard of anyone by that name. So then I tried the Met.
Please, get to the point, Lewis.
OK, the point, sir, is that they told me straight away. No one called Vic Nelson is employed by the Metropolitan Police.
So you drew a blank?
Or did I?
Well, you just said...
They gave me the answer in 5 seconds flat. They didn't ask for a date of birth, middle name, address, description, nothing. They were too quick to tell me they'd never heard of the bloke.
Which makes you think he is a copper?
Yes, sir.
Very good, Lewis. Possibly wrong, but impressive nonetheless.
Oh, thank you, sir. Did you finish translating the diary, sir? Yateman's diary?
Didn't take long. He only started writing in Latin at the beginning of term.
Any clues?
No, just constant sniping at the interloper. Hook non-pertinent. But no actual name or relevant accusation.
Well, that's a shame.
Yes. Have you noticed anything peculiar, Lewis?
About the music?
About the journey.
You're going a bit fast, but I'm used to that.
You haven't spotted the car that's been following us ever since we left Kidlington?
Ford Escort?
I've been speeding up, slowing down, overtaking when I shouldn't.
Yeah, I did notice that.
But the Escort's always kept 20 yards behind me. Can you see the driver?
Not really.
I think we'll have a word.
He's pulling over and all.
Hello!
Mr. Spencer, am I right in thinking you were following us?
I was just wondering where your investigation might be taking you.
You could have called me on the telephone.
Would you have told me anything?
No.
Which is why I thought I'd tag along.
Without my permission.
You're a reasonable man. I'm sure we can come to some sort of arrangement.
You must be joking. Just bugger off and keep...
Lewis. There's a mature student at St. Joseph's. Name of Vic Nelson. We think he might be a police officer.
Sir, go on.
I imagine you have contacts in the Met.
I know some coppers who are happy to swap information for cash.
Ask them about Nelson. Is he a serving police officer? Which department? What's he doing at Oxford?
And if I find out anything of interest, what's in it for me?
If I discover what Yateman's scandal is, I'll give you the story first.
Then you've got yourself a deal.
Good. Now stop following us and get on the phone to your contacts. Come on, Lewis.
Yes, sir. You're not serious about giving him the story?
Of course not. If he believes that, the man's a bigger fool than I thought.
One more day, I thought. One more day.
I'm sorry, sir, but the college is closed to visitors.
What do you mean, closed?
I mean, it's not open.
Why the hell not?
So the fellows and their students can get on with their studies undisturbed by the likes of you, sir. Ah, Mr. Morse, back again.
I'm afraid so.
And Mr. Lewis?
Hello.
We need a word with some of your undergraduates, the entire rowing crew, to be specific.
I'm not sure that's going to be possible, sir.
Oh, why not?
Orders from the master. You're to report to his lodge straight away.
Really? That sounds as if the master thinks he's in charge.
When it comes to this college, he is in charge.
If it keeps him happy, we'll pop along and say hello. Lewis.
So how come they're allowed in?
They're police officers, sir. They think they can go where they like. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to make a phone call.
We're not going to see the master, are we?
I may give him 5 minutes at the end of the day. First, I'll ask Dr. Hinckley where I can find the rowing captain, Unsworth. I know she teaches him philosophy. In the meantime, you concentrate on Nelson and Evans. Talk to their scout again, see if you can get a key and search their rooms.
What am I looking for?
Clues, Lewis. And before you ask, no, I don't know what sort of clues. Just do your best.
Where will I find you?
Let's meet at 1 o'clock. King's Head.
Where else?
So we have two questions. What can we know, and what is there? According to Plato, are these questions related? Think about the connection between Plato's epistemology and his metaphysics. Am I keeping you awake, Mr. Unsworth?
Sorry, Dr. Hinckley. Bit of a late night. Brain's not really working just yet.
I'm not sure it's been functioning for quite some time.
Look, we both know I'm not here to learn philosophy. I'm here to row for the college.
So what's the point in studying Plato?
Now, that's a bloody good question.
Oh, for heaven's sake, yes!
Sorry to disturb you, Well, well, what a coincidence. I was just about to ask Dr. Hinckley where I could find you, Mr. Unsworth, and here you are.
We're in the middle of a tutorial, Morse. Can this wait?
Actually, no. I need to speak to this gentleman and the rest of his crew before the end of the day. Otherwise, I might start arresting people. I'm in that kind of mood.
You can't arrest me.
As one of Dr. Hinckley's philosophy students, you should realise that I can disprove your last assertion by the simple act of placing you under arrest.
Oh, come on.
I want to know what happened on the night of Mr. Yateman's death. When you left college, who was with you?
I can't...
Do not say I can't remember.
But that's the truth.
No, your words are false. False words are not only evil in themselves, they infect the soul with evil, according to Plato.
You think you're really clever, don't you?
He is really clever, Edward. He won an exhibition to Lonsdale.
But look at him now. Boring little copper.
Boring little copper who's running out of patience. Did you take David Evans to the boathouse? Did you shave him there as some kind of punishment? Was Yateman with you?
I can't allow this, Morse. I asked you to let it go.
And I said I wouldn't.
Chief Inspector Morse, I was told you were heading in this direction.
Your spies were correct.
And yet, you'd been asked to come and see me first?
There seems to be some confusion over the amount of authority you hold over me. Just to clarify, it's 0.
You're in my college, Morse.
Your college from which one of your fellows died.
But you don't know that he was murdered.
I won't know anything until I've completed my inquiries.
Think of Mino's paradox. If you know what you're looking for, inquiry is unnecessary. If you don't know what you're looking for, inquiry is impossible. Therefore, inquiry is either unnecessary or impossible.
He's got you there. Oh, you understood that bit of Socratic dialogue, did you?
At last we're making progress, Mr. Unsworth.
I think we should talk in private, Chief Inspector. Dr. Hinckley, will you take Mr. Unsworth away, buy him a coffee in the buttery?
Don't leave the college, and I want the names of everyone who was in the boathouse when Yateman died. No more messing about.
Do as the officer requests, please.
But I keep
Just do it.
Come along. We can finish off Plato and move on to Aristotle.
Oh, what joy.
I'm surprised your superiors haven't asked you to terminate your investigation.
I don't have superiors, merely officers of a higher rank.
Semantics at a time like this.
A time like what?
You're on the edge of a dilemma. Should you do as requested, back away, save your career? Or should you risk everything for the sake of blaming someone for what might well have been an unfortunate accident?
If you know what happened to Mr. Yateman...
Of course I don't know. I wasn't there. My point is, you'll do more harm than good if you continue to look for a murderer. I see Dr. Hinckley's been teaching the Tractatus. Read it yourself?
Yes. According to Wittgenstein, the world is the totality of facts, not things. I would like some facts. Please.
It's very difficult for me to help you. I honestly can't tell you anything, but... You are running the risk of exposing a situation that I have promised to keep a secret.
What situation?
If I told you, it would no longer be a secret.
I can be discreet.
Is that why you sent a hack like Spencer to sniff around the senior common room?
I don't have to tell Spencer anything else, but you, Master, have a legal, moral obligation to tell me everything you possibly can. The option to keep your mouth shut does not exist.
Oh, remember your Wittgenstein, Chief Inspector. Wovon man nicht sprechen kann, darüber muss man schweigen. It means...
Whereof one cannot speak, therefore one must be silent.
Something to think about?
Sorry, sir. Mr. Spencer found me, insisted on joining us.
That's fine, Lewis. Pull up a chair. When you've bought me a pint of best bitter.
I'll have half a lager. Thanks very much.
You can buy your own drink.
You like that, Lewis?
It should be your money.
Yes, love. What can I get you?
Pint of best, half a lager and a single.
What news about Vic Nelson?
I've asked a couple of coppers who are normally pretty helpful. Ring them back in a minute, see what they've got. Is there a phone in here?
On the bar, far end.
They've been asking about you as well, Chief Inspector. You're an interesting character.
Am I?
You were a student here at Lonsdale College, reading classics.
Many years ago.
But you didn't finish the course. You started with a scholarship.
An exhibition.
But you ended up with nothing.
I didn't get a degree, but I learned a few things.
I was up at Cambridge myself, Trinity Hall. Got a 2-2 in English.
Good for you.
No big deal. Practically everyone from my school went to Oxbridge.
Let me guess. A public school populated by posh boys like yourself.
Do you have something against posh boys, Mr. Morse?
I have something against people who feel they can take whatever they want without having to make an effort. I have something against people who think it's their God-given right to run the world according to their rules, just because Mummy and Daddy had enough money to send them to the sort of school that gets stupid children accepted by a university that ought to know better.
What's going on, sir? The old pub can hear you.
Good.
I think I touched a nerve.
Well, maybe don't touch it again. Here's your lager. You're bitter, sir.
Mr. Spencer, why don't you ring your police contacts? Now. Make yourself useful.
Very well. Don't go away.
Did you have a look in Nelson's room, Liz?
I couldn't. He and Evans were in there. Apparently, Evans hasn't been outside since Yateman died.
According to whom?
I was talking to their scout again, Hazel. She said Nelson wouldn't let her clean the rooms this morning, and there's been a girl making a fuss on their staircase.
What girl?
One of the catering staff calls herself Annie, but Hazel heard her on the phone today giving a different name.
I don't understand.
The girl rang someone and said, "Hello, it's me, Kelly."
Maybe that's her surname.
Not according to Hazel. On the catering rota, the girl's called Annie McBroom.
Kelly or Annie, you said she'd been making a fuss on the staircase?
Banging on Nelson's door in the middle of the night, crying, shouting, that kind of thing.
Ready for this? Detective Sergeant Victor Nelson is currently attached to a department of the Metropolitan Police called SO22.
Never heard of it.
They do undercover stuff. Funny little jobs that even my contact won't talk about.
Is that right? Finish your drink, Lewis. And let's have a word with DS Nelson.
I assume I can tag along.
You assume wrong. Stay here.
Oh, come on.
Sit down, Mr. Spencer. Have another drink. But you'll have to buy it yourself.
But I couldn't give up. Not till it was over.
You need to eat something.
Not hungry.
I can make you something else.
Stop treating me like a baby.
I've got to look after you.
Oh, yeah? Like the other night?
I said I was sorry.
Where were you, Vic? Where'd you go?
Mr. Nelson, open up. It's the police.
Not again.
Let them in. We've got nothing to hide.
Are you trying to be funny? What the hell?
Sorry about the damage, sir.
I was going to open the door.
My sergeant will pay for any repairs.
No, I won't.
I gather you're also a detective sergeant, Mr. Nelson, in the Metropolitan Police.
I've got nothing to say.
Just tell them, Vic.
No.
Tell us what, sir?
He's my minder. He's here to look after me.
Why do you need a minder?
None of your business.
It's very much my business, since I'm investigating the death of one of the Dons.
What are you saying?
Mr. Yateman's dead. Didn't you know?
Vic, why didn't you tell me?
Because there's nothing to do with you.
After what he did?
Shut up!
No, don't shut up, Mr. Evans. Tell us what Yateman did.
I'm sorry, Chief Inspector, but it's my duty to warn you that this whole operation is classified, and neither you or your sergeant are clear to know anything about it.
I don't know what operation you're talking about. I just want to know what went on at the boathouse.
The rowing crew got me.
David, shut it!
They'd already tried to make me drink a pint of whiskey in Hall. I got away, hid for a while, but then they grabbed me on the staircase, pushed me in their van, took me to the river.
Was Yateman with the crew?
He turned up at the boathouse. It was his idea to shave my beard, said it was an appropriate punishment for looking like a tramp.
Did he do the shaving himself?
No. That was Unsworth and his mates. Yateman stood at the side, egging them on. But then they turned on Yateman.
Why?
I think they just found him annoying. He was so loud, laughing and bossing them around. So they pulled down his trousers and pushed him on the floor.
Did they push him into the river?
I don't think so. Last I saw, he was really pissed off. Ran outside, screaming at Unsworth, threatening all sorts of punishment.
Did Unsworth follow Yateman?
No. They let Yateman go. Started messing around with me again, till Vic finally showed up.
Yeah, and I got David away from those wankers.
Ah, Sergeant Nelson, you've decided to help with my inquiries.
I carried David out the boathouse, told him to run. Then I stayed there, stopped anyone from going after him.
So did you see Yateman by the river?
No.
Could he have fallen into the water as soon as he came out of the boathouse?
No idea.
When did Unsworth and the rest of the crew come out?
Again, no idea. I just kept the door shut till I was sure David got away. Then I went after him.
No, you didn't.
What do you mean?
I ran over the bridge, hid behind a tree, waited. I heard the minibus leave. I heard the crew honking on the horn, shouting. But you never came over the bridge, Vic.
I don't understand. If Mr. Yateman had been lying in the water when the crew came out of the boathouse, they would have seen him there. They're a nasty bunch of hooray Henrys, but I don't believe they'd ignore a body in the river. Sergeant Nelson, did you find Yateman, take him back to the river, push his head under the water?
I was supposed to be protecting David.
Protecting David from what?
If I can't do my job right, they'll take me away.
Who will?
It was Yateman's idea to shave David's beard off. It was his stupid fault.
You didn't kill him, Vic. Tell me you didn't kill him.
Have you found your murderer, Inspector?
Who the hell
Get him out of here, Lewis!
You were told not to come.
I just want the story like I was promised.
Out you go, Spencer.
Victor Nelson, I'm arresting you for the murder of Anthony Yateman. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defense.
Wait! Where's David?
Oh, he's heading downstairs.
Stop him!
What? I've got me hands full with this one.
Let me go!
No chance.
You've got to get him back.
What is so special about David Evans? What are you protecting him from?
Who's this gone to see?
Evans, Master.
David Evans. Then no, this can't happen.
Too late, I think.
Go and stop it, Anthony.
What
now.
can you tell me about a student called David Evans?
I can tell you, I've never heard of him.
Really? He's a member of your college.
I doubt I've even met this David Evans.
For God's sake, Annie. That's the second one this week.
I'm sorry. I'll get a brush.
Fetch another jug while you're there. Clumsy girl.
Mum, I thought my luck had changed when I walked into the college kitchen. And he was just standing there.
David, what are you doing?
I'm sorry, I didn't know where else to go.
Has something happened?
Yes.
Well, tell me.
I can't, I don't want to believe it.
Come here. You look terrible. I've wanted to hold you for so long.
Ever since you kissed me, I can't stop thinking about you.
And why didn't you come and see me?
Vic wouldn't let me. He's in trouble.
Well, I don't care about him. Let's just go.
I'm sorry, miss, but I need a word with your friend.
He's coming with me.
We're police and he's staying here.
It'll be all right, David. Don't do anything stupid.
I thought I'd missed my chance. But then I saw the knives. Long, sharp, just lying there. So I grabbed one.
Annie, what are you doing?
Don't be a bloody fool!
Put the knife down, miss.
You're hurting me! I warned you, David. I told you to stay away from her.
Drop the knife now and let the boy go.
You don't know who he is.
His name is David Evans.
No, his name is Martin Dalgleish. Ring any bells?
No.
3 years ago, he was part of a gang in Glasgow. Murdered a boy called Billy Singleton. Found guilty, got locked up in Pullman. Supposed to be there now doing another 10 years, but look, here he is in Oxford.
Is this true?
I'm not allowed to tell you.
Did you know Billy Singleton? Was he a friend of yours?
He was my brother. My name's Kelly Singleton, and you, Martin Dalgleish, you really should have slept with me.
What?
I'd have told everyone you'd raped me, and they would have believed me. You'd have gone back to prison, but at least you'd be alive. Now, I'm going to have to kill you. Stuck the knife in his guts. Someone pulled me away. I stabbed him as well. I really tried to kill him. I promise. I really tried. I knew I'd go to prison, but I didn't care.
I thought you did well not to pass out, all that blood.
Don't talk about it, Lewis. Where is he?
Maybe in the room which PC Jarvis seems to be guarding, just a guess.
No need to be facetious.
All right, Derek.
Sarge.
Okay if we have a word with the patient.
Be my guest.
I think he's asleep.
No. Sergeant Nelson, are you awake?
Well, I am now. How's David?
Do you mean Martin?
Sorry. Force of habit.
He's had quite a few stitches, but not as many as you.
The knife missed his main arteries.
Yeah, he's fine. That's all you need to know.
And the girl?
Under arrest. 2 counts of attempted murder.
How did she know Martin was in Oxford?
We're trying to figure that out, but most likely Mr. Yateman sent the Singleton family some photos of Martin. I think Yateman told them that one of Billy's killers was living the high life at an Oxford college.
How did Yateman know who Martin really was?
The master might have let it slip. I assume he knew all about you.
Yeah. But why would Yateman tell the Singleton family about Martin?
I imagine Yateman was unhappy that a convicted killer was getting an Oxford education.
There's quite a few other prisoners doing degrees around the country. The Prime Minister approves every case himself.
I don't think the readers of the Daily Mail will give any case their approval.
That's why it was supposed to be a secret. But now, I bet they shut the whole scheme down.
I bet they do.
He wasn't really a murderer, Martin. He was there when the boy was stabbed, but it wasn't him with the knife.
Joint enterprise.
He deserved a fresh start.
Did he? What about the dead boy, Billy Singleton? No Oxford education for him.
I'm glad I saved Martin from the girl. Did my job in the end.
What else did you do? Did you murder Anthony Yateman? When you're fit, we'll talk about that properly. Under caution.
I won't be saying any more about Yateman.
We know you killed him, and we'll prove it.
Can you call a nurse, please? I need more painkillers.
Well, whatever happens, that's the end of your undercover career.
Says who?
Says Quentin Spencer.
Who's he?
The journalist who came to your rooms. He's writing a story about the young Scottish murderer getting a degree at taxpayers' expense. I'm sure he'll spell your name correctly. He did go to Cambridge.
I'm sorry, Mum. I'm sorry. I have to go now. I guess someone will tell you where I am. Can you come and help me? Please. Love you.
Hello? Is that the Central Police Station in Oxford? I don't know if I've got the right number. My name's Singleton, Mrs. Mary Singleton, and I think you've arrested my daughter, Kelly. Strathclyde Police told me to ring you. They told me to stop ringing them. To tell you the truth, they weren't very nice, not very helpful at all. I need to get a message to Kelly. I want to tell her I'll come to Oxford as soon as I can, but I won't be able to leave my work till tomorrow morning. Is she all right? I'm sure she hasn't done anything bad. She's a good girl. You see, what you need to know, it was her brother, you see. That's my son. My son, he was murdered in the street, and it made us all go a wee bit crazy, and, well, it's not getting any easier even now. Not really. And Kelly took it awful hard, you see. So, if she has done something bad, it's not because she meant to. She just doesn't know what she's doing anymore. I'm sorry, I'm rambling on here, talking to a machine. Daft article I am. I hope this is the right number. And I hope you're looking after Kelly. Please, take care of my wee girl. Take care of her. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just leave me alone, will you?
Yeah, I will. In fact, I'm not even here. If anyone asks, you didn't see me, okay?
What do you want?
Just checking you're okay.
Why do you care?
I don't know. You brother? You got me thinking. I can't talk about your case, about you, but I wanted you to know I do actually feel very sorry for you. You and your family.
Well, that makes everything okay then.
Get yourself a lawyer.
I don't need one.
Yes, you do. Be careful what you say.
I'll just tell the truth.
No, for God's sake, not the truth. Not if you want to get out of prison before you're 50.
Prison? You think I'm worried about prison?
I'm not sure you'll be able to handle it.
Piece of piss. In a couple of years, they'll send me to university. Where should I go? Oxford or Cambridge?
Annie, Kelly, whatever you want to call yourself, please, be careful.
My brother didn't deserve to die. You realise that, do you? He wasn't in a gang. Just walking down the wrong street, wrong time of night. Looked the wrong way at someone he never saw before in his life. They cut his throat. Left him bleeding in the gutter.
I'm sorry. Really sorry. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll interview you under caution with Chief Inspector Morse. He's a good man, Morse.
Good. What do you mean? Good at his job? Good as opposed to evil?
You're getting a bit philosophical.
Oh, sorry. Just getting ready for my degree course when I'm locked up in prison.
Remember, you have the right to remain silent.
As if that's going to help me now.
Oh. Hello?
Hello. Can I come in?
Yes, of course, come through.
Can you turn it down?
What?
Please turn it down.
Would you like a drink?
You were supposed to meet me in college. Did you forget?
I didn't think I'd be very welcome there.
You've done nothing wrong.
I'm pretty sure the Master would disagree with you.
Who cares what the Master thinks?
I imagine you do.
He's not giving me the associate professorship. Says there are better qualified applicants.
So, what now?
I'll find another college or another university.
Or get a proper job. I'm joking, of course.
No, you're not. Will I see you again?
I don't think so. We're very different, you and me.
You like to pretend you're different. But you're just the same as me. You're a snob, Morse.
No.
An intellectual snob. You try to behave like you're just another copper, but you're too clever to pass yourself off as ordinary. That's what I like about you. What I did like about you.
I'm sorry. There's nothing else I can say.
Morse, In the Shallows, was based on the characters created by Colin Dexter. Story by Al McCullen, adapted by Richard Stoneman. Chief Inspector Morse was played by Neil Pearson. Detective Sergeant Lewis was Lee Ingleby. And Superintendent Strange was Pip Torrens. Dr. Jessica Hinckley was Anna Chancellor. Anthony Yakeman, Kevin Eldon. The Master, Anton Lesser. Annie was played by Ashley Smith, and Hazel was Rachel Atkins. Unsworth was Edward Killenback. Gregson, Harry Lister Smith. David Evans, Henry Pettigrew. Vic Nelson, Okorie Chukwu. And Quentin Spencer was Ben Crow. Morse, In the Shallows, was directed by Marilyn Imrie.